Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Olivia couldn't pinpoint the exact moment she first saw Bill. He seemed to appear out of nowhere, a fixture in her routine, as though he'd always been there. They worked in the same building, separated by 30 floors. She would steal a few moments of sunlight by the fountain, while he was there for a cigarette, something she'd break him of soon enough. It started with just a glance, a touch, innocent enough. But over time, those casual encounters became something more. She found herself craving their moments together. Bill didn't ask too many questions, and she liked that. He was smitten from the start. 6 months in, Bill asked her out. She said no. He took it in stride, and that unnerved her more than it should have. That night, she dreamt of him, dreamt of his lips, his hands, as if he were really there, as if that dream were the beginning of something inevitable. The next day, Olivia asked him to dinner, and that's where everything started to unravel. I slowly brought the tube to my lips and applied the bright red lipstick. I had never been one to use lipstick often, just for special occasions. Then I added a shiny lip gloss that made my lips look nice. I stepped back from the mirror to admire how I looked. My hair was styled perfectly, shaped into a long bob that rested on my shoulders. Each shiny brown strand fell nicely in place. In the trash was another broken comb. I had spent a long time trying to untangle my hair, but now I looked polished. I had to be careful. If anything went wrong, everything else would too. In that moment, I caught Bill's eyes in the mirror. His usual calm look was now focused on me. I forgot my earlier nervousness. "You look good," he said, looking at my green dress. "Your favorite color," I replied with a smile, "because it matches your eyes." I noticed a smudge on the mirror and began to scratch at it with my fingernail. "Do we have to go tonight?" he asked. "What?" I had gotten rid of the mark, but now I had left a smudge from my finger. "Tonight. Let's just stay in. Everyone will be there." I put the lip products back in the drawer and wiped my hands on the counter. People paid good money for those tickets. Whose idea was this? Andrew's firm got tickets for their clients. Not everyone could go, so he invited us. Bill raised his hands in defeat, and I turned back to my reflection. I checked my eyeliner one last time to make sure it looked right. "I talked to my father today. He'll be in Chicago for a night next month and wants to have dinner." Bill sighed and slumped in the doorway. "What? You don't want to go to the ballet, you don't want to have dinner with my father, it's just one night. And you're always excited when my parents visit." "Good point." I tossed my hair over my shoulder and put a gold stud in my ear. "Well, you don't have to come, but I know he'd like to see you." "Of course he would, but those are not just friendly visits." "Oh, come on, he has lawyer friends for that." "Not for his divorce. Those friends charge for their services." "Well, get ready for it, because he's not going anywhere. I bet if you need tips on how to impress younger women, he'd gladly help." "Younger women," he said as he walked over and wrapped his arms around my waist. A strand of hair fell over his eye, and I thought he needed a haircut. "Are you trying to get me in trouble? I've got my hands full being with you." "Bill," I complained, playfully pushing his hands away, "you're going to mess up my dress, and I'm finally ready." "Yes, dear," he said with a teasing smile, stepping back. "I'll bring the car around," he said. I followed him out of the bathroom, but quickly turned back, grabbed a hand towel, and wiped away the smudge. We got to the theater just before the show started. Balancing in my heels, I held on to Bill's arm as we searched the crowd for people we knew. The lobby felt fancy, as if it was meant for Chicago's elite. Well-dressed women stepped carefully down the red carpet, passing under beautiful chandeliers that made shadows in the corners. "There they are," Bill pointed out. My two best friends, just a bit over 5 feet tall, almost looked like sisters. Gretchen, in a bright pink dress and high heels, waved her arms excitedly. Her long, light hair bounced in curls with every move. Next to her, Lucy dodged Gretchen's wild gestures, predicting her every action. She wore a black dress with a boat neck, and her short brown hair was neatly styled. Her boyfriend, Andrew, stood a little away, holding a program. When he saw us, he smiled widely and waved us over. "Sorry, Gretch," he said. "Everyone, this is Lucy's other best friend, Liv Germain, and her husband, Bill Wilson." What, now I'm the other best friend? I joked, shaking hands with someone whose name I didn't catch. I'm the one who introduced them, you know. Liv and I grew up together, Gretchen said. Sorry, he replied again. And Lucy and Liv met in college, she added. Lucy looked at me with her big brown eyes and gave me a hug. Look, we're the same height now, she said, showing off her tall shoes. I don't know, little one, Bill said. Liv still has a couple inches on you. Anyway, Gretchen cut in, I rushed to the station after my plane lands and barely catch the train. It was 1 a.m, and I'd been traveling for 14 hours, so I fell asleep right away. When I woke up, the stewardess said, "Welcome to Chile." Chile, one of the women exclaimed. I had gotten on the wrong train, slept through the whole ride, and ended up in Santiago. Everyone laughed, and I joined in politely, even though I had heard the story before. To make it worse, it was chilly outside, and I was dressed for summer in shorts and a tank top. The man next to me laughed loudly, making me look his way. I noticed he was the only one without a partner. Gretchen's focus was fully on him. "Oh, I think it's time," Lucy squeaked as the lights began to dim. The group moved apart as we headed to our seats. The single man approached Gretchen, looking genuinely interested. "So, what do you do that lets you go to Chile whenever you want?" "Entertainment PR," she replied with a sweet smile. "Hook, line, and sinker," Bill whispered to me. Gretchen turned and gave us a playful look when I giggled. Windex is mad," he said with a smile. She smiled back, and I could tell it was because she liked the nickname Bill gave her. When I introduced them, he had mentioned how bright her eyes were. Once we sat down, he leaned closer and asked, "Do you know the story of Odette and Prince Siegfried?" I raised an eyebrow, surprised, and he handed me a program. Swan Lake, just another love story that didn't go well. "Oh," I said, unable to hide my surprise. In the 3 years we'd been married, I had never heard him mention ballet. "My parents took me to see it when I was a teenager," he explained. "They thought I would enjoy it since I took ballroom dancing." As the lights dimmed, Bill settled back in his seat, bumping his long legs against the seat in front of us several times until the person turned to look at him. I almost laughed just as the conductor raised his arms. Soon the stage was filled with dancers in white costumes, moving gracefully. Their slippers looked clean and beautiful. Everything about the ballet felt smooth and impressive. I was in awe of how lovely the performance was. I wished life could be that perfect. When the curtain fell for intermission, I clapped happily with everyone around me. We flooded into the lobby, excitedly talking about what we had just seen. Bill and Andrew went to get drinks, while Gretchen, Lucy, and I tried to stick together in the crowd. The room was full of people, and I hoped Bill wouldn't be stuck in line for the whole break. "I can't believe my mom let me quit ballet when I was 7, Lucy said sadly when we found a spot to stand. "I could have been famous." "I don't think it's that simple," I replied. She shook her head. "Liv, I could have pursued ballet as a career." Gretchen and I laughed at her serious face. "Fine, don't believe me," she said, pretending to be upset. "I'm going to the restroom." "Oh, me too," Gretchen said. "Liv." "I don't really need to go," I said. "I can wait here for the guys." I looked over the crowd, searching for the bar where I expected Bill to be. I watched the people around me, noticing how their stiff movements were so different from the elegance of the dancers. They felt like strangers from another world. Or maybe I was the one who didn't fit in. As a teenager, my parents' sudden divorce had made me feel out of place. It had shaken my ideas of home and comfort. Since then, I had never figured out where I truly belonged. Being in a large crowd only made that feeling stronger and left me feeling exposed. I often felt very lonely in a crowd, even when I was with friends and family. Just before I saw him, I could feel someone looking at me. I looked across the room and saw a man with dark, deep eyes staring back. It felt like time had slowed down, and my heart started to race. Our eyes met for a moment longer than it should have. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. It wasn't just his tall figure or good looks that caught my attention. There was something about him that pulled me in. I jumped when someone touched my arm. I realized I had been holding my breath, and now it came out in a rush. I turned to see Bill making his way through the crowd, but when I looked back at the man, I felt a catch in my throat. He had come closer than needed. His easy stance made the air between us feel different. I had to remind myself to breathe. My cheeks felt warm as I took him in. His messy dark hair and sun-kissed skin showed he spent time outside. His strong features were softened by long lashes. Without meaning to, I gasped at how handsome he was. A woman's voice broke my thoughts and he turned away, giving me a moment to breathe again. I quickly moved to the side, exhaling loudly. Bill and Andrew were there, offering me a drink as I tucked myself behind them for shelter. "Where are the girls? You like Pinot, right? What do you think of the show?" I made a sound as I tried to respond, but my mind was racing. "I'll take that," I heard Gretchen say. "The line for the bathroom is short if you need to go," Lucy said. I jolted when she touched my shoulder. "Liv, are you—" "I think I will go," I said, stepping back. I noticed Lucy's confused look but turned away, trying to weave through the crowd that felt thick and suffocating. I couldn't recall exactly what the man looked like. Our moment was brief, but I felt a change in the air. Only when I was interrupted could I shake off the feeling. Later, as I sat in the theater, the red seats felt uncomfortable against me, and I shifted around. Every time I tried to sit still, I felt that man's presence wash over me again. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember his face. I could only sense him. I worked to focus on the second half of the show. A beautiful dancer captivated the audience as her story played out, but it felt like she was watching me during the moments between scenes. Back in the lobby, I casually looked around the crowd, hoping to find some clue about who the man might be. To my surprise, I didn't see him again, and I tried to forget my feelings as we enjoyed dinner and drinks into the evening. The heavy door of our apartment in Lincoln Park almost slammed shut, but I caught it just in time and closed it gently. I sighed as I hung up my coat and took off my shoes. Bill turned on the television in the other room while I went through the mail, tossing most of it into the trash. On the old couch his mother had given us, I found him in his shorts, lazily watching replays of the basketball game he had missed. After having a few glasses of red wine, I changed out of my green dress and let it fall to the floor. When he didn't look my way, I moved over and sat on his lap. "Hi," I said softly. He brushed a strand of hair from my face as he glanced back and forth between the TV and me. I smiled at him, feeling a wave of energy and wanting to connect. "Well, well," he said with a smile when we broke apart. "What's gotten into you?" "It's late. Let's go to bed," I said playfully, wrinkling my nose. His eyebrow went up in surprise. He looked like he might say no, then seemed to change his mind. In a smooth move, he stood up, carrying me with ease to the bed. His fingers gently brushed the outside of my legs as he leaned over me. "I forgot to grab something," I said, suddenly feeling unsure. "It's fine," he replied. I frowned. "No, it's not fine. You know I'm not ready for this." "Come on, Liv. Just this once," he said with a sigh, sounding a little annoyed. "No way. A friend of mine had a bad experience with that, and I promised myself I wouldn't go down that path." "There's something in the kitchen drawer," he finally offered, rolling his eyes. I slid out from underneath him and rushed to the kitchen. I searched through the messy drawer until I found what I needed. "Liv!" he called impatiently. I grabbed it, checked it quickly, and ran back, jumping onto the bed. "I'm sorry, where were we?" His frown faded as he propped himself up on his arms. I lightly touched his chest and abdomen, feeling a shiver run across his skin. My, Mrs. Wilson," he said playfully. The name reminded me of Bill's mom, but I managed to smile. It was part of why I hadn't changed my last name. "What big green eyes you have," he continued, kissing my cheek. "And such pretty hair," he added, brushing a lock away from my forehead. He moved closer, waiting expectantly. I reached up and brushed my fingers through his soft brown hair, tilting my head slightly. "It's not blonde, just regular brown," I said with a little pout. "What?" he replied, pretending to be surprised. "You must be seeing things. I see some lighter bits in there. You just want to say you married someone with blonde hair. Agree to disagree then?" He smiled, his crooked nose creasing. He liked to joke about how he had broken it playing basketball, but really it was just his natural shape. He gently held my hands, bringing me comfort. The sounds of a lively basketball game filled the room. The familiar movements felt warm and calming. His touch had grown more confident over time. As he looked down at me, I noticed beads of sweat on his forehead, especially when he smiled. He didn't lean in for another kiss, but I was okay with that. I realized that the deeper bond we shared was what truly mattered. I breathed in his natural scent mixed with the smell of unwashed hair and fresh sweat. It was always stronger when we were close. I felt a little flutter inside and sighed softly, but it passed quickly. Soon he settled beside me, closed his eyes, and rested on the bed. "I'm sorry," he whispered in my ear after a moment. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No, it's fine," I replied, feeling a bit tired from the wine. "It was nice." It took him less than 2 minutes to fall asleep. I knew because I often watched the clock during those moments. I carefully untangled myself and tiptoed out of the room. Once the apartment was quiet and dark, and I had freshened up, I returned to snuggle into the soft sheets. He stirred and reached for me, but I gently moved out of his way. I had learned to find comfort in the quiet moments after we were close. I often felt restless as I tried to fall asleep, a little flutter. While the moment felt good, that flutter wouldn't take me far. I turned to look at my husband. He once wanted my happiness as much as I did, but that was something I struggled to give him fully. There were times we felt close, when everything seemed perfect, and I had shivered with happiness. But when it was time to finish, I felt overwhelmed. Bill took comfort knowing it wasn't just him. I had been with other guys before, mostly in college, but I hadn't found the happiness I searched for. Still, I couldn't let that get to me. To me, it felt like a lasting flaw, a worry for me as a wife. If things were reversed, could I accept that I couldn't bring joy to Bill? I felt happy, though. I had other ways to find peace when I needed it. I had my husband who loved me no matter what. My life was nearly perfect, filled with good friends, wine, and connection. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep. Yes, I was happy. Don't forget, tonight is dinner with Mac and Davina. I searched through my purse for my building pass. Got it, Bill said, tapping his head. I'll meet you there. I can't leave the office any sooner. I know. That's why I set it for 8 o'clock. Thankfully, the Donovans like to take their time. No kidding. They party more than we do, which is a bit surprising since they're much older. He leaned down to give me a friendly pat on the cheek. I'll see you later. Thanks for taking me to work today. I owe you one, I said with a smile. Love you, he called as I closed the door behind me. Oh, hello, fancy girl, I heard from behind me. Too good for public transport like the rest of us? Hi, Jenny. I love Fridays, she said as we walked to the front of the building. They're full of possibilities. But you know what I love even more than Fridays? Gossip. Oh, Jenny, where do you get all your news? I asked, teasing. Nothing gets past reception, she said seriously. Beeman's going to let Diane go. What? I said, stopping in my tracks. He wouldn't let go of a senior editor with everything coming up. How do you know? I just know, Liv. I also heard he'll hire you in her place. You're joking, I said, trying to hold back a smile. But isn't Lisa next in line? Are you sure? Yep. Everyone knows you've been doing Diane's work for years. She touched my arm lightly, making me stiffen slightly. Since we have some time, do you want to grab a coffee with me? No, I replied with a playful sigh. I want to get a head start on my day. I'll see you up there? Sure. I headed to the 14th floor and shook my head in disbelief. My dad would be thrilled if I achieved this. I'd been working hard under Diane for years, but being senior editor seemed like a big jump. Was I really ready for this? As I exited the elevator, I nearly bumped into the editor-in-chief and was hit with the strong scent of his self-tanner. The wrinkles around his eyes deepened as he spoke. Good morning, Olivia, he said as we passed. Nice to see you here early. Come by my office in an hour. I'd like to discuss something with you. Absolutely, Mr. Beeman, I replied as the elevator doors closed. I turned the corner to see Lisa through the glass doors leaning over Jenny's desk. What time does she get here anyway? I made sure to arrive at Beeman's office exactly 1 hour later. I didn't need to think twice about saying yes to the opportunity. I watched him carefully organize his desk as I waited. He wasn't the first difficult boss I'd dealt with, but there was something unsettling about his presence. His posture was a bit too stiff, and the part in his white hair was too neat. I let Diane go this morning, he said abruptly, not one for small talk. My expression showed genuine surprise, as I didn't have the chance to reply before he continued. I'm very happy with your work as an editorial assistant. You're a creative editor, and your writing suits the magazine well. Thank you, Mr. Beeman. Your feedback means a lot to me. I was more surprised by his praise than by the news about Diane. It's not just my opinion, it's the truth, he said, bringing me back down to earth. Anyway, I want to promote Lisa to Diane's position and offer you her title of associate editor. My face grew warm with disappointment. I wished Jenny hadn't mentioned anything, and I didn't want to work under Lisa. Mr. Beeman, if I may, I have worked closely with Diane for nearly 3 years now. I believe I'm ready for her role. He studied me closely while I stayed calm, returning his gaze. As an associate editor, Lisa is next in line. Do you really think you're ready? Yes, I affirmed. Let's see how this goes. We'll start with one of our most popular features, Chicago's Most Eligible Bachelors and Bachelorettes. This could be our best-selling issue of the year. Let's attract advertisers with the best group of people yet. For now, move into Diane's office and work with Lisa on this feature, as well as any other tasks Diane had. I'll decide on promotions after the issue is published. I nodded and stood up to shake his hand. I'm on board. Thank you for this chance. He told me that Diane was already cleared out and asked me to send Lisa in to see him. Lisa gave me a knowing, somewhat pleased smile as she walked past me to his office. Once I moved my few things from my cubicle to Diane's office, I eagerly picked up where she had left off. In my excitement, I decided to involve an intern. Looks like we'll be working together on Most Eligible, I said, popping my head into Lisa's office on my way to the intern's area. She only grunted, not looking away from her computer. Lisa was frequently passive-aggressive, which would have been okay if her bitterness didn't show in other ways. I'll stop by this afternoon to get started. I can fill you in on where Diane left off. She glanced up at me for a moment. Great, Liv. I'm busy this afternoon, but I can probably fit you in. I offered her a strained smile, but she had already turned her attention back to her screen. Moments later, I saw the back of a short blonde bob with soft pink tips. Hi. A young woman looking fresh out of college turned quickly. Hi, Mrs. Germain. Are you Serena? Yes. Oh, is it Miss Germain or Mrs. Germain? Jenny looked unsure. She glanced at my ring. Or something else. Whatever you prefer. You can call me Liv. I wanted to chat about the article you emailed last night. You sent it pretty late. I know. I'm sorry, she said, her eyes widening. I was feeling inspired and didn't want to stop, so I stayed up all night working on it. Next time I can wait until morning to send it. No need to worry about that. I'm usually up late, I said, waving my hand. I'm just glad you sent it early. It makes things easier for everyone. Oh, she said, covering her mouth with her fingers. I thought I messed up. Nope. Anyway, I liked the article, but I have a few things I'd like you to fix. I'll email my notes. In the meantime, Lisa and I will be in charge of the annual Most Eligible issue. I want it to feature the best bachelors and bachelorettes we can find. Can you start narrowing down the list? Sounds good, Serena said as she took notes on a yellow pad. How do I know what to look for? Like appearance or jobs? I gave her a small smile, wondering if I had chosen the right person for the task, and made a mental note to check in later. Look at issues from the last few years to understand what we want. I know they've already removed some candidates, but this year I want the very best options. No friends or family, set up interviews with the top picks so Lisa and I can decide from there. Okay, she said. Even though it was just one word, her voice shook slightly and her eyebrows furrowed together. I was an intern too, I said, trying to encourage her with a warm smile. You'll do great. Hello, dear, Max said with a friendly smile when I entered the restaurant that evening. I loved how his smiles created deep lines around his eyes, showing how sincere he was. Mac, I replied, waving at him and then leaning over to greet his wife, Davina. How are you, honey? She asked, her charming accent contrasting with Mac's polite British tone. Bill should be here soon. He's been working late every day for the past 2 weeks, but he's on his way, I explained. Not a problem, Mac said cheerfully. Let's sit and order a drink. He signaled to the hostess. I watched as they moved through the restaurant, their hands always close together. How's work? Davina asked once we were seated. Wonderful, I replied, sharing the news about my possible promotion. "I knew you'd advance quickly," Davina said. "I never support anyone I don't believe in." "Thank you," I said with a genuine smile. It was Davina's recommendation to another senior editor that had helped me get my internship years ago. "Don't waste your energy on the competition. If I know you, she should be the one feeling anxious," she added, glancing at her menu. "And how's your mother?" Mac asked, brushing a stray gray hair off his forehead. "How is she?" "She's doing well. Is there anything happening?" "Sure," I said lightly. "There's always something." He smiled. "I always tell everyone what a great writer she is. Such a talented artist," he said thoughtfully. "I can't wait for her next book." "Well, she definitely has an artist's spirit," I replied. "You know that the character Max in her first novel was based on me? A lively British fellow who comes to university to shake things up." "Of course she knows, Mac. You remind her all the time," Davina joked. "Oh, come on," he said with a playful grin. "She was quite the determined young woman. She marched right into the university newspaper office and insisted they publish her article about corporate problems. I knew right then we would be good friends. It's no surprise she became the editor soon after. A real go-getter, just like our Liv here." I frowned, and he laughed. "Oh, there's Bill." I saw him among the diners and felt uneasy when he accidentally bumped into a woman. His shirt, which had looked gold that morning, now appeared mustard in the restaurant's light. "I was on time," Bill said, catching his breath, "but parking was a nightmare." He leaned over to give me a friendly kiss on the cheek. "Congrats on the job," he whispered, then turned to Mac and Davina. "What did I miss?" he asked, pulling out a chair. "We were just reminiscing about old times," Mac said. "Here, have some wine." "What's new with you guys?" Bill asked. I appreciated him for steering the conversation away from the past. "Well, Mac and I are going on a last-minute trip to the Amalfi Coast, so we've been doing quite a bit of shopping," I said. "Correction, she has been shopping a lot," Mac interrupted. "I'm just the wallet." "Oh," Davina said, waving him off. "I only needed a swimsuit to cover my new scar." She pointed to her side. "No more bikinis for me," she said with a frown. "Just old-fashioned one-pieces." I looked at her fit body. She was healthy with olive skin and short, wavy blonde hair. Her bright eyes matched her bold personality. Even after her breast cancer diagnosis 3 years ago, her spirit remained high. She didn't believe in pity, and I had learned that keeping things normal was the best way to cope. "You really should visit my best friend Lucy," I suggested. "Which Lucy?" he asked. "Her college friend Mac. Try to keep up," Davina teased. "Liv and Lucy were in the same sorority," Bill added. "Once they were accepted, they decided they preferred each other's company and left together." "Oh, that's sweet," Mac smiled, always the romantic. "She's a stylist, right?" asked Davina. "Yes, she works just across the street from me. I bet she can help you find something cute that fits well." Davina made a face. "I hate that word. Me fit well? No way." "Why do you think she wanted me to leave Dallas?" Mac joked. "Can you take Liv on this vacation?" Bill asked, nodding towards me. "This girl needs some sunshine." I frowned. "What? I'm not that bad," I said, rolling up my sleeve as the table laughed. "You stay out of the sun, dear," Davina said. "Fair skin is in style. Embrace it." I laughed and nodded. "Sure it is. Pale is all the rage." "You know, Davina, we just finished a case against a doctor who mishandled a procedure and nearly harmed a woman." "That sounds terrible, Bill. I don't want to hear about it." I nearly rolled my eyes at Bill's social mistakes. "How is your mother?" Mac asked me quietly. "I haven't talked to her much lately," I admitted. "She says she's working on a new book but won't tell me what it is about. And since Dad no longer sends her money, she claims she's poor. But with a successful career and Dad's support over the years, I just don't see how that could be true." I found comfort in Mac's company. Because of their past, he knew my mother better than Bill and my friends did. "Bill wants to lend her money, but I think that's a bad idea. We don't really have extra funds since we are house hunting." "Are you?" he asked, clapping his hands in excitement. "I'm so happy for you. You really are all grown up, little Liv. I still remember your first birthday, such a grand event your mother threw, and you could hardly enjoy it. She hosted that party for herself." We both laughed. "What's so funny?" Davina asked. "These two are house hunting." Oh, you know Mac and I own quite a bit of property, so we're nearly experts. Bill smiled proudly and began sharing our progress. It was his favorite topic lately, so I let him talk and nodded at the right times. Davina would jump in when she disagreed with Bill, and I chuckled at the frustration on his face. If my family had any sense of tradition growing up, Mac and Davina would have been my godparents. They'd always looked out for me, and Davina, being a natural leader, wasn't shy about correcting Bill. During dinner, I admired the easy way Mac and Davina got along. They often reached out to each other as if Mac was reassuring her. Once, when he thought we weren't watching, Mac leaned in to share a quiet moment with her between bites. She rolled her eyes playfully, and I smiled at Bill, but he was focused on his phone. When we settled the bill, Mac said, "Don't worry too much about your mother. Lenore has always taken care of herself. Just remember that she may need emotional support more than anything." He patted my back. His words felt true, but sadly, supporting others wasn't really my strength. "And if we can help with your house hunt, just let us know. I'd love to help." "Deal," I replied. "Have a great trip," Bill said as we stepped out onto the sidewalk. He put his arm around my shoulder and waved goodbye as they walked away. "Hey," he said, playing with my hair, "I have some bad news. I need to go back to the office." "What?" I looked up at him. "It's Friday night." "I know, it's silly. I'm really sorry. I promise I'll make it up to you this weekend." "It's okay," I replied, running my hand over his arm. "I just don't want you to wear yourself out. It'll be worth it when we find our new home. Just imagine you and me in a peaceful place. It'll be nice to leave the city behind." I opened my mouth to argue, but stopped. I reminded myself that Bill worked hard and should get what he wanted, a nice home in a quiet neighborhood. It might take time for me to get used to that after 5 years in Chicago, but I knew I would adjust eventually. "You're right. It will be worth it," I thought. "Are you okay to take the train?" he asked. "I might be late, so don't stay up waiting for me." I woke up early but let Bill stay in bed. He had come home very late, and it bothered me to think about how hard he was working. I slipped on an old shirt and my black pants, then tied my hair back in a ponytail. As I reached for my shoes, Bill turned around, mumbled something, and hugged my pillow. I started my day with some music and walked down the street, humming along to a catchy tune. After a few songs, I took off my headphones as I entered the building. The lively sounds of the animal shelter hit me. I could hear dogs barking and cats meowing. I had been volunteering there twice a month since Bill and I moved to the area, more often if I could. On my way to the back, I paused at a cage to look inside. "Well, you're new," I said softly to a tiny black and caramel dog. His big eyes blinked at me and he just sat still. "Don't worry, you're safe here." I stood up straight and saw George. "Good morning, Liv." "Hi, George. How are things going?" His smile faded a bit. I knew the truth. Life at the shelter could be many things: fun, rewarding, messy, sweet, and often sad. There were no kill shelters nearby, but they always got more volunteers than those that weren't. It wasn't the animals' fault. They needed exercise, food, and love, even if some of them wouldn't find a home in time. "So, what should I do today?" I asked. "Eureka needs a walk," he replied with a worried look. "She's very energetic this morning, and no one else wants to take her." I laughed. "That's exactly why I'm ready for it," I said, lifting my leg playfully. "Let's go." As soon as I heard the sound of nails on the concrete, I braced myself. Eureka came racing through the door and stopped right in front of me, pulling against her leash. "She's all yours!" George shouted over the barking. As I took the leash, she jumped up happily and started sniffing around me. "All right, girl, that's enough," I said, laughing as I redirected her focus. With all the excitement I could muster, I ran her down to Lakefront Trail while she tried to get my attention. Once we reached the path, we slowed down and walked. I kept her close as we passed cheerful children, fast cyclists, and other dogs. Once she settled down, we sat and watched people. She wagged her tail cheerfully at those who looked our way. "Hey, is that Liv?" I heard a voice say. "Hi," I replied, trying to remember the man standing next to me. "It's Rick, from the ballet." "Oh, right, Rick," I said, finally recognizing him as someone who knew Gretchen. "What are you up to?" "Just finishing a run. Is this your dog?" "No, she's from the shelter. We're just giving her some fresh air." "Oh, so you volunteer there?" "Yes, that's right." "Well, she's a real cutie." She is, but she has a lot of energy, I said, waving my hand to show my point. Just then, Eureka stood up and sniffed at Rick's leg. She sat back, panting and watching him, hoping for some attention. I had a pit bull when I was younger. She might be part pit bull, he said, looking her over. How old is she? She's just a year old. She'll calm down soon. She's just full of puppy energy right now. I watched him gently pet her while talking to her softly. She's had all her shots too, I added, raising an eyebrow at him. He smiled back. I get what you're saying. Honestly, I've thought about getting a dog, but I'm not sure I have enough time. I can help you connect with dog walkers. A lot of people in the city use them. Plus, you'd have a good running buddy on weekends. He squatted down, took her face in his hands and petted her. What's her name? Eureka. Eureka! That's a fun name, he said, laughing. She really is a Eureka. Well, Liv, I'll think about it. That would be great, I replied. Just make sure you really want to. It's best for everyone if you're certain. I understand. How can I find her? Here, give me your number, I said, handing him my phone. I'll text you the details. Just a heads up, Eureka has been at the shelter for a few weeks and I'm not sure how much longer she'll be there. That sounds urgent. No, I said, shaking my head slowly. Oh, I see, he replied, rubbing his chin. I get it. I'm sorry, no pressure. Eureka, huh? He said, scratching her head. You're single, right? I asked. Yes, I took Gretchen out last week. She's great, but very independent. So independent that I can't get her to return my messages. She is, I said with a smile. I'm sorry about that. He waved it off. Well, it was nice talking to you. Text me that info tonight if you can. Will do. Great to see you, Rick. I stood and watched him jog away, hoping he would follow through. Sometimes things just click, and Rick talking to Gretchen at the ballet felt like one of those moments. Looking down, I saw Eureka had wrapped herself around my legs. What are you doing? I sang, trying to untangle myself. At that moment, a small dog barked from a distance, and Eureka took off toward it, knocking me back. Eureka! I called out, using as much strength as I could to hold her back, which thankfully was just enough. Whoa, 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 I heard a man's voice say as he rushed over. That's an expression I haven't heard in a while, he said, bending down to help me. I'm sorry, I replied, confused. Eureka. Oh, right, I grinned, taking his outstretched hands. I noticed his strong arms as he helped me up. No, that's her name. Got it. Makes more sense now. Are you okay? I am, just a bit embarrassed, thanks. Don't worry, it was a very graceful fall, considering everything, he said with a warm smile. I felt my cheeks heat up and noticed his quick glance at my hand. I should get going before I exert myself more. Be careful, Eureka, he called as he jogged away. We should get back before you cause more trouble, I told the dog. We ran all the way back to the shelter where I gathered her details to send to Rick. I waved to Gretchen as I left the building. Hello, Spring, she called. Not quite, I replied, crossing my arms to keep warm. Where's Lucy? Is she meeting us here? She said she had to run an errand and would join us at the restaurant, I said with a shrug. Come on. She linked her arm with mine. It's Monday and it's happy hour. Let's celebrate. We walked down the street, and it reminded me of my first year in Chicago. The three of us would gather at our apartment after work, change quickly, and often stay out until the early morning without even noticing. Those were carefree days when responsibility felt far away. How had the time passed? Things were certainly different now, but something felt off. With spring arriving, I sensed changes coming, though I couldn't pinpoint what it was. The man from the theater stayed on my mind. I couldn't remember his exact face or clothes, but his eyes and the warmth he gave off lingered with me. Did he feel that connection too? What had he seen when he looked into my eyes? Dirty martini. Gretchen's voice pulled me back to reality. And for you? The bartender asked. Wait, let me guess, pomegranate margarita, on the rocks, no salt. What makes you say that? I asked with a small smile. Gretchen and I had known a few charming bartenders before. Pretty girls always want pomegranate. Gretchen huffed, and we both noticed it. I leaned away from the bar, feeling shy about his boldness. I'll have a Guinness, I said. He raised his eyebrows and nodded. And I'll take mine with a twist, Gretchen added playfully. I held back a laugh and searched for a table. John has a new girlfriend, Gretchen told me once we had our drinks. I rolled my eyes and asked her for more details. Don't be jealous, she said, referring to the little crush her brother had on me since we were kids. She's the new receptionist at his office, so no one knows yet. John's usual type was someone young and cheerful. Why? I laughed. John is such a nice guy. Why does he keep getting attached to these girls? I bet a little talk would show it's tied to his feelings about the divorce. When our mom left, he never really moved on. If your parents— Cheers! I interrupted, raising my glass. It's happy hour, not time for deep conversations. Oh, she said, lifting her drink. Cheers. I enjoyed the bitter taste of the drink as it went down. By the way, Guinness? She asked. I've never seen you drink that before. I shrugged. I panicked. I almost ordered something fruity. While we laughed, she pointed at the table. Your phone! I glanced at my phone as it buzzed with a message. Where are you? Bill's short text was clear. I reminded him that Lucy had set up a surprise happy hour. Didn't we just see them? I quickly typed back. She said it's important. It won't take long. I looked up to see Gretchen also focused on her phone. Where is Lucy? I asked. She's usually the first one here. Just then, Lucy walked in. She spotted us and hurried over, nearly jogging. When she reached the table, she took a deep breath, sat down, and grabbed the happy hour menu. Her face turned bright red as she stayed still, letting us look at her. What is it? I asked. Lucy held the menu up to her face, waved her left hand, and then looked at us with shining eyes. My jaw dropped. Did Andrew propose? I asked, staring at the sparkling ring on her finger. Yes! Last night! Lucy squealed with joy. What? We gasped together. You've been holding this in all day? Gretchen was shocked. Well, I wasn't going to say it over the phone. How did it happen? Gretchen insisted. So, Sunday is our special day, Lucy explained. He was acting a little odd all afternoon, and then he asked if I wanted to see a movie. Usually we stay in on Sundays, but he said he really wanted to see this action movie everyone at work was talking about. I said no at first, but he promised to take me for ice cream afterward, so I changed my mind. Okay, we went to this small theater in Lincoln Square, which is not where we usually go. When we got there, he just walked in without paying. I asked Andrew what was happening, but he wouldn't say anything. Inside, an empty theater awaited us, and there was a worker with 2 fizzy drinks on a tray. Then, the screen lit up, and I recognized the music from Moon River. It was my favorite movie, Breakfast at Tiffany's. We took the drinks and followed the worker to the middle of the theater. There, on my seat, was that famous little blue bag. I instantly felt tears of joy. Andrew opened a box, told me how much I meant to him, and asked me to marry him. Wow, Gretchen said, beaming. That is wonderful, I replied. It was such a lovely proposal, and it made me happy that Andrew understood her so well. Gretchen and I chatted excitedly about the ring, which had 3 oval-cut diamonds on a sleek platinum band. For a moment, I felt a twinge of envy, not over the ring or the fancy proposal, but because he had planned it just for her. Bill's proposal had been sincere, like everything else he did for me, but it happened in front of an audience. All my friends and family watched as he knelt down, and all I could think about was how his pants were too short. Everyone was waiting for me to say that special word. I looked at my own gold and diamond ring, a family heirloom from his grandmother. It was thoughtful of Bill, and I felt bad that I hadn't told him it wasn't what I preferred. For the next hour, we shared the news with excitement, jumping from detail to detail. Lucy sat up straight, dreaming out loud about her ideal wedding. And we must discuss the bridal party, she said, pursing her lips. Gretchen and I exchanged big smiles, eager for what was next. Gretchen Harper, Olivia Germain, she began. Please do me the honor of being my bridesmaids. I've asked my sister to be the maid of honor, and that's all. Just my 3 girls. We agreed right away, having talked about this moment before. I can't believe you never took Bill's last name, Lucy added. I can't wait. Lucille Marie Green. I made a face at her. It's a lot of work that you don't understand, I replied. So many forms. They looked at me with doubt as I drank my water. What? It's not that I don't want to. I just haven't gotten to it. Poor Bill, Gretchen said, shaking her head. I sighed. Well, maybe that will be my task for the summer. I know it would make him glad, it's just that Wilson, it's such a... I made a face. I don't really feel like a Wilson. Are you saying you've been putting it off because you don't like it? They laughed together, and I shrugged. Maybe. Speaking of Mr. Wilson, I said, taking out my phone to text him. I wonder if I can ask him for a ride. I have to head out too, Lucy said. I'm all booked up for tomorrow. Good for you. How is it that you get to shop for a living? Asked Gretchen. That makes me a little jealous. Don't be. You try explaining to a 60-year-old woman who only wants to wear ivory to her daughter's wedding. She says it's not the same as wearing white. What's wrong with that? I said, chewing on a piece of ice. Just kidding, I said, noticing Lucy's surprised look. I promise, no white for your wedding. Or ivory. You'll wear whatever color I choose, bridesmaid, so watch it. Personally, I think you'd look great in lilac, Liv. I made a choking sound, and we all burst out laughing. Okay, seriously, first thing on my list is a bridesmaid, I said to the table, pulling out my agenda. Don't plan anything for the Saturday in 2 weeks. I looked directly at Gretchen, who opened her mouth to argue. Engagement party, I interrupted. Gretchen paused and nodded eagerly. Whatever else she had planned could wait, I thought. Lucy readily agreed she had been looking forward to this her entire life and was all in. She shared some ideas I had heard before, but I jotted them down anyway. Come over this weekend, I said, turning to Gretchen. We can work on invitations and plan together, Gretchen and Olivia's party planning service. I'll bring muffins, Gretchen said. And Luce, send me Andrew's contacts, I added, realizing I didn't know many of Andrew's friends. Just then, my phone pinged with Bill's message. Out front. Ride's here, I said. Do you guys need a lift? I'm meeting up with some people. Okay, Luce? She shook her head. I leaned over and gave her a friendly nudge on the shoulder. Congratulations, I said. A chilly breeze hit me as I stepped outside. Bill was waiting, and I heard Robert Smith's sad music playing from the car. His mood often matched the music he chose. The Cure meant something was bothering him. Hey, what's up? I asked. If you're going out, why can't you take the train home? He asked. You could have said no, I reminded him. I thought about how he used to enjoy giving me rides because it meant more time together. I wondered if he was thinking about that too. Next time I'll take the train. These brakes are shot, he mumbled. I need to get the car fixed again. We could consider getting a new one, I suggested for the 3rd time this year. Maybe my dad's Shelby? Why? This one works fine. It's old, Bill. It's not like we can't afford a new one. We can't afford... Okay, maybe not the Shelby, but something else. Just because it works doesn't mean it's the best choice. Liv, we don't need the Shelby. It's not sensible. He grunted, and after a moment he hit the steering wheel in frustration. Come on! This isn't rush hour. What's the holdup? Ignoring his annoyance, I excitedly told him about Lucy and Andrew's engagement. His shoulders relaxed a bit, and I knew he was starting to come around. That's nice, he said. They make a great couple. They really do, I agreed, gazing out the window. The yellow streetlights and dark shadows blended together as we sped up. Gretchen and I sat at my kitchen table, our laptops open and address books spread out, sipping coffee on Saturday morning. She had made invitations during the week, and Andrew had sent me his contact list. He agreed to host the party at their place and pay for it too. That meant I didn't have to talk to Bill about the cost. As Gretchen wrote on the envelopes, I leaned against the counter in my sweats, blowing on my drink and admiring the neat handwriting of the invitations. I felt happy with how they turned out. What is this? The break room? Gretchen broke into my thoughts. Back to work. Where's Bill anyway? She asked, suddenly realizing he wasn't there. He's playing basketball. Andrew's joined in, and they seem to be getting pretty close. Oh, she said, twirling a roll of stamps on her finger. Then she asked, Do you and Bill ever use this table for other things? I nearly spilled my coffee from laughing. No, I said, giving her a playful glare. But honestly, I could use some excitement in my life. Share some stories. I went out with that guy Rick from the ballet a few times, but that's about it right now. Oh my God, I forgot to tell you. She raised an eyebrow at me. What? I saw him last weekend while walking one of the shelter dogs. He said you didn't call him back. Nah, he's a bit different. Okay, but he seems nice. He was interested in the dog I was walking, Eureka, and guess what? He adopted her. Oh, that's sweet. Now I feel bad for not calling him back. Well, you can't now. What if you end up together? I would never forget how you talked about him. Fine. For your sake, I'll let it go. Thanks a lot. But there's something else, she said cautiously. Tell me, I urged, noticing her nervous expression. I got a message from Greg the other night. What? I exclaimed, dropping my pen. Why didn't you say something sooner? I didn't know how to feel. I still don't. What did it say? It just said to call him. I narrowed my eyes at her. Did you? She shook her head quickly, loose strands of her hair falling from the bun on her head. I remembered the apartment Lucy and I shared at Notre Dame, where the three of us would sit at the kitchen table talking about Greg. In our first introductory biology class, Greg and I were the only ones who noticed how unusual the professor was. We exchanged glances and made the same silly face. This connection made us fast friends, and we also ended up as dorm neighbors. Lucy, Greg, and I often discussed our classes over cold pizza in the dining hall, or stayed up late sipping warm drinks under the cozy Fighting Irish blanket my dad sent me. Greg was smart and charming, and I was proud to be his friend. He got to know Gretchen during the weekends when she visited from Chicago. They didn't become a couple until our junior year, but I could see how well they clicked right away. When Greg ended things with Gretchen just 2 days before graduation, it affected all of us. Me, Lucy, her boyfriend at the time, and our close college friends. He told us he got a job in Japan, which surprised us all, and that he was moving there to start fresh. I knew he was worried about how serious things had gotten with Gretchen, and I tried to help her see it too. After graduation, she felt lost at her parents' house for weeks, finding little comfort. When she finally re-emerged, it was to sign a lease for our new apartment, and she never mentioned his name again. Until now. Wow, I said quietly. Aren't you curious about what he wants to say? She looked at me wide-eyed and shook her head. It's over, she said firmly. Just then, her phone vibrated against the wooden table, making us jump. We shared a cautious glance before she peeked at it like it might surprise her. It's just John, she said with a sigh of relief. Hey, she answered. Yeah, that's fine. Just send me, Okay. Just message me the file and I'll check it over. She covered the mouthpiece and whispered, maybe he should find someone else to handle his press releases instead of bothering me. Nothing, just chatting with Liv. She paused. Okay, hold on. She passed the phone to me. Hi, John. Hi, pretty girl. I miss you. I could hear his smile over the phone. I miss you too, I replied. Why don't you ever come visit your sister and her amazing friends? Just say the word and I'm there. I chuckled, and Gretchen, knowing her brother well, rolled her eyes. How are you, really? I'm hanging in there, I said. Don't say that, you know I don't like it. Okay, I'm great, better than ever. He said, sounding thoughtful. Not good. I want you to be happy, but not too happy at least, not until we can be together. I smiled shyly, feeling my cheeks get warm. Our conversations often turned this way, but he still knew how to make me blush. Is Bill treating you right? Yes. And how's work? Going well. I'm up for a promotion at work. Speaking of work, I heard you have a new stapler, I quickly added. Ha, Gretchen told you. Yes, I got a new assistant, but stop deflecting. Share something about your life that you haven't talked about publicly. I don't have much going on right now. Come on. I know you have something to share. Oh, well, Bill and I... Nope. I'm married, John. I don't have much of a life outside of that, but I am going to ask my dad for the Shelby. Bill doesn't know about this yet, I said, glancing at Gretchen. The 68? Liv, you spoiled brat. You've always gotten what you want since we were kids. That car is something special. You would look amazing in it. All right, I said. Now I'm sending you back to your sister. Wait, Liv, he said, sounding a bit more sincere. I'm happy to hear you're doing well. Next time, share something more interesting. Deal, I said with a smile. Here's your sister. I didn't catch your side of the chat, but Liv is as red as that Shelby. You're lucky Bill isn't here to see this. I tossed a piece of muffin at her and then hurried to pick it up before returning to the invitations. To my surprise, the engagement party was a big hit. The crowd was just right, not too small and not too big. Guests brought nicely wrapped gifts, placing them on a glass dining table. Lucy's apartment in River North was a perfect setting for this upscale gathering. The snow-white carpet covered the living room, and I wondered how Lucy kept it so clean. She had a way of avoiding messes that I found impressive. Large windows showed a view of the Chicago skyline, and soft lighting highlighted the cozy white couches, a quiet fireplace, and a well-stocked bar. I waved to Jack, a work friend I had asked to be the bartender for the night. He smiled warmly as he poured a martini for Lucy's colleague, who seemed to watch him with curiosity. As I glanced at my reflection in the window, I noticed my fitted white dress resting just off my shoulders. I decided to skip the dessert table for the evening. I looked outside at the dark sky and turned to watch the guests. It was easy to feel overlooked in this crowd. Even though Lucy and Andrew had a fancy social circle, I felt a bit let down hearing the same old conversations here and there. Suddenly, I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Just a little something for the party planner," Jack said, offering me a glass of red wine with a charming smile. "Oh, this is just what I needed," I replied, matching his smile. "How did you know?" "Bartender's intuition," he said with a grin. I politely brushed off his gesture and turned back toward the bar. He called out, "Come find me later!" I nodded, but as I raised the wine to my lips, I accidentally spilled some on my dress. In the kitchen, I cursed my clumsiness as I opened the cupboards. After finding a towel, I turned on the faucet to wet it. When I looked back, I saw a small white towel against my dress. Those familiar hooded eyes I recognized from the theater met mine, and I felt a rush of warmth. I couldn't remember if we had invited him. I simply didn't know. He leaned on the kitchen island and asked, "What's your name?" His voice was deep and urgent. I hesitated, struggling to speak. "What's your name?" "Olivia," I finally managed to say, surprised at how soft my voice sounded. "Olivia," he repeated, sounding pleased. He reached over and placed his hand over mine where I held the towel. A strange sensation traveled through me at his touch, causing me to shiver slightly. He took the towel from my grip and moved closer, eager to interact. "Olivia," he said gently, "I want to know you better." My heart raced as I looked into his eyes, which I remembered as dark but were actually a striking light chestnut brown. His bushy eyebrows framed his warm gaze, giving him a different, almost magical look. His strong jawline and cleft chin shaped his features, making him stand out. I broke eye contact and looked away, trying to gather my thoughts. I felt unsure if I should question his boldness or just go with the moment. Just then, I heard Bill's laughter from the other room. I instinctively moved back to the sink as he walked in, still smiling from his earlier fun. He came straight to me, wrapping his arm around my waist and kissing my forehead. "Livs," he said cheerfully. "Hugh thinks the Bulls will lose, so I had to set him straight." His voice carried back into the party. "Your husband is almost ready to bet your savings on the playoffs," Hugh shouted from across the room. "And I can't say I haven't warned him." I forced a smile for Bill while my heart raced a bit. "Anyway," Bill said, "I just came for the sweets." He smiled at me and picked up a large cupcake wrapped in red napkin. After he left, I glanced back at the man watching me. His expression had changed, and I barely had a moment to take it in before more footsteps approached. I moved away from the kitchen just as Andrew walked in. "Liv, where have you been?" he asked, noticing someone interesting nearby. "Oh, David, I see. Always charming the ladies." Andrew chuckled and nodded toward him. "David, a common name, nothing special." I whispered it to myself, almost like it was new. "Actually, we haven't met yet," David said calmly, and I shot him a look. He seemed relaxed, as if everything was fine. He slowly adjusted his sleeves. I was taken aback and tried to copy his ease, letting my shoulders drop. He added, "I was just getting her a towel. She spilled something." "I see. Well, Liv, this is David," Andrew introduced. "He's the lead architect on our new office building, and I hope if I spend enough time with him, some of his charm will rub off." He winked at me. "The women at my office adore him," he said, raising his eyebrows at David. "You usually have a busy schedule, though. No date tonight?" David chuckled briefly and shook his head, wiping his brow. Andrew just shrugged, always unfazed. He was similar to Bill in that way. Bill didn't get upset easily, but when he did, it was intense. I wondered, looking at Andrew's easygoing smile, if he was the same. I bit my cheek as I continued to observe David. He must have a lot of admirers. I felt a twinge of annoyance for letting his confidence get to me. Someone so relaxed must have life pretty easy. Well, I said quickly, trying to regain my composure. Looks like I'm all cleaned up. Andrew, where's Lucy? I've hardly seen her. I stepped back to create some space. David, I hesitated for a moment, just enough for someone paying close attention to notice. Nice to meet you. With that, I turned and made my way back into the party. I spotted Lucy a few steps later, even though I hadn't talked to her much all night. Liv, she said, placing her hand on my arm. Are you okay? I'm fine, Luce. My voice came out a bit too high. What a party! Did professionals plan this? I teased, scrunching my nose. Gretchen, who had been chatting with Jack, saw us and hurried over. You two are amazing, Lucy said, looking between us. Thank you for all of this. Just then, a server walked by with a tray of sparkling drinks. Following Gretchen's lead, we raised our glasses to each other. To you, Lucy, and your fiancé, Lucy smiled at the mention of the word. Wishing you both the best. We all took cheerful sips. Who is that? Gretchen suddenly asked, but I didn't need to look to know. Lucy found Gretchen's mystery man and nodded when her gaze locked onto him behind me. That's David, Lucy said. He's working with Andrew and they've become friends over sailing. Noticing Gretchen's raised eyebrows, Lucy added, I get it. Sailing? I asked. Oh, didn't I mention? She nudged me playfully. Andrew wants to buy a boat. Gretchen trailed off, and I could see the thoughts racing through her mind. A subtle smile appeared on her face as she seemed to make eye contact with him. David walked past us while Gretchen and Lucy's eyes followed him, and I felt annoyed that he might think we were speaking about him. Look at him, Gretchen said, the corners of her mouth lifting into a smirk. Oh, Gretchen, be nice, Lucy replied. I'm just saying the truth, she said plainly. Don't tell me you weren't thinking the same, Lucille Marie. Lucy's face turned red, and she looked away. That's what I thought, Gretchen said, nodding, and we all laughed. But my laughter faded when I noticed Gretchen's intense gaze still on David. For the first time in a long while, I felt the thrill of being single, the excitement of new possibilities. I should go say hi later, she murmured, mostly to herself. A wave of concern washed over me. I met him in the kitchen, I blurted out. He seems a bit full of himself. Andrew mentioned he's a well-known flirt. I wouldn't bother. I felt heat rise in my cheeks as I thought about how many girls he might have impressed with his charm. Gretchen raised an eyebrow at me, but quickly shrugged it off. I'm not after anything serious. Lucy caught a passing waiter and grabbed a small plate with tuna tartare. It's true. Andrew said since he met him, he's seen David with a few different women, and they were all beautiful. Yes, Andrew actually said beautiful. No thanks, Gretchen said, waving the appetizer away. Are we still on for lunch this week? I turned slightly to spot David out of the corner of my eye. His voice was deep as he chatted with someone, and I strained to hear. Lucy's voice interrupted my thoughts. Olivia, what's up with you? You seem off. What? What did I do? I asked, confused. We're discussing lunch on Monday. She wanted to know if you're still joining. Lunch? Yes. Park Grill? The bridal magazine event. Oh, lunch. I forgot. I absently tugged at my earlobe, still trying to listen while responding to Lucy. That should be fine, yes. Okay, let's meet at your office at 11:30 and walk together, Lucy said and looked at me. Sure, of course, I replied. Excuse me? I quickly crossed the living room, trying not to look at anyone. Was I losing my mind? Why was I letting him get to me? I felt a strong urge to get away from the crowd, and I knew just where to go. I pulled open the sliding glass door to the balcony, took a deep breath of fresh air, and then coughed as smoke filled my throat. I quickly shut the heavy door when I saw 2 lit cigarettes in the corner. One of the smokers was Andrew's receptionist, and I nodded hello to her. She looked ready to say something, but I moved to the other end of the balcony before she could. The cool iron railing felt nice under my hands. I shivered and wrapped my arms around myself. In my rush, I hadn't grabbed a jacket. Every time I looked out at the skyline, it felt like the first time. Tiny lights scattered across the buildings, and I wondered about the people inside, what they were doing right then. Leaning over the barrier, I looked down at the city below. It wasn't a long drop from the 8th floor, but it made my heart race. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel? My mother yelled. I hid behind the stucco wall and peeked through the glass door as my father raised his hands in frustration. "Lenore, you're being unreasonable. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel? Like you don't trust me? How can I trust you when you're talking to everyone in the hotel lobby and in front of your daughter? Don't you bring Olivia into this?" he said, pointing toward her. "This is your issue, and you're ruining our vacation. You don't understand." I turned away from the door and looked over the railing. My fingers grabbed the bars of the balcony as I stood on my toes. I wondered what it would be like to fly. Had anyone ever tried? Maybe it was possible and nobody knew. We learned about evolution in school. Maybe we had wings that could tell the difference between flying and falling. "Olivia." I jumped at the voice behind me. "Come in here and fix your hair," my dad called. "I'll take you out for a milkshake, but not until you brush those tangles out." For no reason, I looked over my shoulder and saw the man filling the doorway, his hands resting against the frame and his head tilted as he watched me. David. He seemed relaxed in dark jeans and an open black coat. I nervously glanced at the smokers who had stopped talking to stare at him. He stepped out onto the balcony and put his hands in his pockets before walking toward me. As he got closer, I turned my gaze back to the skyline. My mouth felt dry and my heart raced, but I tried not to show how he affected me. He stepped closer, and I caught a hint of a smell that was familiar but not quite right. "You're married," he said. "Mm-hmm." I took a breath. "Happily," I added lightly. I looked back at him, noticing his serious expression. Surprised by how real he seemed, I turned to face him. I squared my shoulders and rested my hands on the railing behind me to seem relaxed. "And you have quite a way with words." He looked a bit surprised by my tone, but a small smile appeared on his face. "You look cold. Take my jacket." "I'm fine," I replied, shaking my head as he tried to take it off, even though I felt chilly. He paused for a moment, then put it back on. "Actually, I don't have much time to stay," he said at last. I scoffed to myself. Sure, right, who even says stay? To act like it didn't matter to me, I shrugged. "It's not really my concern." "I guess it isn't, but..." Deep down, I wanted him to finish, but he seemed to change his mind and shook his head. "I have to go." My heart sank a little, but I pushed the feeling away. I looked over at some women chatting in the corner. They had resumed their talk, but Andrew's secretary was watching us closely. "I want to see you again." I quickly turned back to him, shocked. "What?" I whispered, motioning towards the others on the balcony. "There are lots of women here, single women," I said, even though I didn't really know. "If you want company, I'm sure they would be glad to talk to you." I instantly regretted my tone when I saw his change in expression. "I didn't mean anything like that," he said. "Just a friendly meeting. You're clearly with someone, but believe me when I say, if that weren't true, we'd be having a different chat." His words hit me. There was still a strong connection between us, and it felt even stronger in that moment. I wanted to see him again. The idea of this being our last moment made me uneasy, and I tightened my grip on the railing. "I should tell you, Olivia, I don't handle rejection well. I can be quite persistent." I took him in, sensing that familiar scent around him. I wasn't sure if he meant it as a warning or not, but his words intrigued me. "A meeting," I repeated, trying to understand. "No funny business, I promise," he said, raising his hands to show he was sincere. Suddenly, feelings I had tried to hold back for years started to break through. Something inside me was pulling at the door of my emotions. I had never felt anything like this before, and I didn't know how to respond. If I could expect our meeting, at least I could prepare for it, I thought to myself. Facing him would be hard, a challenge that felt like a test of my self-control. The thought made me lift my chin with pride, and I quickly pushed down a wave of guilt. "Tomorrow night," I agreed, knowing Bill was leaving for New York in the morning for his important meetings. His chest puffed up as he smiled. "Come to Jerome's on North Halsted at 9 o'clock. I look forward to it, Olivia." My face warmed when he said my name. He turned away, and for the first time I could breathe a little easier. "Having fun, David?" The secretary spoke loudly, but I couldn't catch David's quiet reply. "Care for a smoke?" She offered him a pack of cigarettes, and I felt uneasy. He said something else, and his lowered head showed he was saying no. I felt relieved when he left, and after a moment I followed, making sure not to glance at the people smoking. "So, if you put the money in a Roth, it will grow tax-free," Andrew was saying to Gretchen when I got closer. And that's better? Well, yes, in your case. My heart raced as I looked up and saw David coming toward us. He paused behind Lucy, rubbing his jaw and watching me as she turned her head between Andrew and Gretchen. There's the bride, Toby. Lucy stood tall and smiled at him. He returned her smile, a bright one I hadn't seen before. Congratulations again, and thank you both for having me, he said. Any time, Andrew replied, wrapping his arm around Lucy. We're glad you could join us. I'm going to take you up on that offer. Oh, I don't know about that, Lucy said, trying not to smile. We're in trouble if he falls for your sailboat. Why don't you come too, Lucy? I can take you both out. Oh, she said, placing her hand over Andrew's. I might be convinced. Sounds great. I'm heading out then. Leaving already? It's not too late, Gretchen teased. I turned my gaze away, focusing on anything but the very noticeable man right in front of me. It isn't, but I have somewhere to be. Well, that's a shame, she said, reaching out her hand. I'm Gretchen, by the way. Nice to meet you, he said, but I could tell his attention was still on me. The next morning I awoke to the soft light coming through the windows. I squeezed my eyes shut and shifted from the edge to the middle of the bed. After a moment, I heard a light clicking sound that pulled me from my sleep. I sat up slowly, feeling a bit off. As I wiped the sleep from my eyes, I noticed Bill moving near the closet. Morning, he whispered. New York, I murmured. Right. Yeah, sorry. Stay in bed, he said softly, adjusting his brown leather bag on his shoulder. I got out of bed anyway and followed him through the apartment. I'll be back late Thursday, he told me as we stood in the doorway, but I already knew that. He quickly said goodbye and stepped into the hallway, then turned back. You look nice, he said before leaving. That day, a weight sat heavy in my stomach. I felt uneasy and couldn't eat anything. A sweet message from Bill at the airport made me feel even more troubled. I reminded myself that my upcoming meeting was an end, not a beginning. I would share what he wanted to know and then remind him that I was married. I tried to find comfort in this thought, but it was the end part that worried me. To keep busy, I ran errands all afternoon. Even though I was alone for the week and cooking didn't sound great, I picked up groceries, dropped off Bill's dry cleaning, and donated some old linens to the animal shelter. I needed to keep myself out of the apartment. After what felt like a long day, I looked through my closet. What should I wear for this meeting? I decided on a simple beige blouse and high-waisted black pants. When I put on some lipstick, it turned out darker than I thought. I checked the name, Vamp. I pressed a tissue to my lips but paused. The color was so bright against my pale skin, it felt a little much. I let the tissue fall into the trash and thought maybe I would try a different look tonight. After putting on a gold necklace and slipping into heels, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I pulled my hair back but then let it fall, feeling exposed. My wristwatch, a black leather one from Bill on our second anniversary, showed it was 8 o'clock. I slipped on my coat, pulled up the collar, and decided a walk would help calm my nerves. As I walked, my feelings bounced between excitement and fear. I wondered if I could really go through with this, if I would walk in and just sit down and wait for him. I rarely shied away from a challenge, but this felt different. What could happen from just talking, putting an end to things? When I found the bar, I understood why he chose it. Stone steps at the entrance led down underground. At night, it was a place where people could be someone else, and during the day, it was a break from the hot sun. I looked down the stairs that faded into darkness, and the sound of a saxophone floated up, inviting me inside. The music wrapped around me, urging me to take a step. Tears filled my eyes. I couldn't go in. I had come too far in life to throw it all away. My watch showed 10 minutes to 9. I had been standing there for almost 5 minutes, lost in the music. If I went back now, it would feel like I had never left. Yes, that's what I decided to do as I turned to leave. Suddenly, he was there to catch me, so close that I could feel his warmth. "You're early," he said, his words hanging in the air. I felt a flutter at his unexpected presence. His rough, sun-kissed skin was enough to create a strong feeling between us. I stepped back quickly and he reached out to catch my wrist. I realized why. I was almost losing my balance at the edge of the stairs. Once I steadied myself and he let go, we went down into the dim light together. I saw him signal from across the room, and the bartender nodded. He walked confidently toward me, as if he did this all the time. I pushed aside any worry I had. Now alone together, we were just two people in the small crowd, surrounded by candlelight. I looked down at my hands and played nervously with my ring. "I'm not sure what I'm doing here," I admitted. "You look beautiful." When I didn't reply, he added in a playful way, "The bartender said that. He wanted me to tell you." I held back a smile and tugged on my right earlobe. "Thank you," I replied softly. "To the bartender," I said, glancing at the waitress as she brought my wine glass. I noticed her glance at David before she moved away. I quickly lifted my glass for a sip. "Shiraz?" I asked, taking in the scent. He smiled gently and nodded, sensing my unease. "So, Olivia." There it was again, my name now feeling more personal. "Do you work?" "Yes," I replied, nodding my head. "I work for Chicago M." "Writer?" He leaned forward, interested. I shook my head. "I'm an editorial assistant and training to be an editor. I sometimes contribute, but it's not my main goal." It was hard to ignore his steady gaze as I spoke. "Writing isn't really my thing," I continued, feeling nervous. "Editing is more methodical, like a puzzle, which I enjoy." "Do I have something in my teeth?" I asked suddenly. "Oh, no, sorry. So, no writing then? I've spoken with Diane at the magazine before. Did you work for her?" "Well," I hesitated. "I was her assistant, but not anymore. She was let go recently." "I see. Will you take her position?" His direct question felt a bit too much, reminding me of something my father would ask. "I might. I'm handling her main features, and if they go well, I could get promoted." He leaned back, looking at me thoughtfully, as if he had just remembered something important. I appreciated the way his warm brown eyes seemed to focus just on me, making me feel special in the soft glow of the candles. Surrounded by soft music, I wondered what he really wanted by inviting me here. The softly lit club created a cozy feeling, just right for private chats. "Two more," he said suddenly, pulling me from my thoughts. I looked up and saw the waitress nodding as she passed by. "How long have you been married?" He seemed genuinely curious, his intense focus on me making the moment feel significant. I took a moment to think. "It'll be 3 years this summer," I replied firmly. "How did you meet your husband?" "I worked in his building as a personal assistant until I got my current job." "And then he asked you out?" "Not right away. We became friends first." I fiddled with a button on my blouse, feeling a bit flustered. He sure asked a lot of questions. I was starting to feel nervous. "How long?" "How long what?" "Before he asked you out." That's an odd question. Not right away. Maybe 6 months." He looked at me thoughtfully, and I matched his gaze. "And what about you? Are you single?" He seemed to think for a moment, tilting his head a bit. Just then, the waitress arrived with fresh drinks, making a note while glancing at him often. "Yes, I'm available. That was a silly question. What am I even doing here?" Gaining confidence, I decided to be direct. "Mr. David, I just realized I didn't ask your last name. Why did you want to see me tonight? What can I do for you?" I took a sip of my wine, waiting for his reply. When I put the glass down, my fingers fidgeted as I tried to avoid his intense stare. He gently placed his hand over mine, which surprised me. "I think you know why I wanted to see you," he said, his eyes locked on mine. I wiped my lips and wondered what he really thought, but pushed the thought aside. "Why do you do that?" he asked. "I'm sorry?" I replied, puzzled. He pointed to my earlobe. "Oh," I realized. "I don't know, just a habit." I tucked my hands back in my lap, not wanting him to know that pulling at my earlobe was a sign of my nervousness. How many times have I done that in front of him? I wondered, realizing I never heard Bill mention it. He leaned forward, opened his mouth to say something, then hesitated and bit his lip. Finally, he said, "I find you very interesting." I was taken aback by how direct he was. It made me uneasy, but also stirred something inside me. "Listen," I began. "I'm married. I'm not sure what you mean." "I understand." I waited for him to say more, but when he didn't, I added, "And I love Bill." At the mention of Bill's name, he leaned back. "Of course you do. Have you ever thought about being with someone else?" he asked. I was taken aback. No, I said, surprised. Not at all. I've never even considered another man since we met. I love my husband, and I haven't thought about anything else. Until, I stopped, realizing I was rambling. Until nothing, I finished, looking away. And definitely not for a quick moment. Where do you get that? I've never talked about my place like that. He looked let down and slouched back in his chair. His mood shifted. His eyes darkened as he crossed his arms tightly, showing his silver watch. I wondered if anyone had ever said no to him. I feel this. I can't explain it. Don't you? I think we should look into this. No. He shook his head. That didn't come out right. But I had already caught on to the word. Look into? And what does look into mean? Don't answer that I can guess. And after you're done looking, I'm just supposed to go home to my husband and act like nothing happened? That's not what I meant. I'm not just someone to play with, David. Being married means I'm not available at all. I paused. Sorry if that ruins your plans for tonight, I added when he didn't reply. He glared at me and looked away. My hands tightened into fists in my lap and my frustration grew, especially as he seemed to lose interest in our talk. He knows this isn't going anywhere, I thought smugly. Time to move on, maybe to the waitress? He just sat there, silent, and his indifference angered me. Also, I don't like what you're suggesting, and if Bill knew, I chuckled softly. He wouldn't do anything, I thought before I could stop myself. Anger flickered across his face, and I wondered again if he'd ever faced rejection. This thought pushed me on, and I waved my hand. This city is full of women single and married who would happily go home with you tonight. You shouldn't have trouble finding someone. He slammed his fist on the table, making me jump. I don't want someone, he shouted, drawing the looks of other people in the bar. Lowering his voice, he said, I'm not what you think. My heart raced from his surprising reaction, and I felt all mixed up. What is he saying? Is this a game? I fumbled for my purse, struggling to unfasten it. Olivia, wait, he begged, but I quickly threw down some money and stood up. I headed for the door, picking up my pace when his chair scraped against the floor. In my heels, I worried I wouldn't keep up with his long strides, and he caught up to me in seconds. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, he gently held my upper arm and turned me to face him. Please, he said softly, don't go. I felt like I might crumble under the power of his gaze. I could see his mix of feelings, frustration and longing. I recognized those feelings in myself, too. I knew if I didn't get away right then, I never would. So with all my strength, I pulled my arm from his grip and ran up the stairs, leaving him behind to watch me go. As I stepped out of the stairwell, I struggled not to cry. I had practiced staying calm for years, and I was upset with myself for losing control. His reaction had caught me off guard and shaken me. I held my purse tightly and rushed to get home, relieved to know that my bed would be empty. I walked, trying to catch a cab, but Sunday nights can be really quiet. My mind kept replaying the night as I tried to understand David. I had so many questions for him and for myself, and I realized I might never get answers. He intrigued me with everything he said and did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed to meet him. Since our moment at the theater, I found myself drawn to him even more, and I knew that this wasn't a good thing. I was surprised when I looked up and saw my apartment building ahead. I had walked all this way without even noticing. Just then, I heard glass shatter on the ground, and it startled me. I kept my eyes straight ahead and focused on getting home. I had enjoyed the walk to the bar, but now I noticed how dark it was and how late it had gotten. I suddenly thought I heard footsteps behind me. Hey! Bill had always told me to ignore people who might cause trouble, and usually they did leave me alone. I'd never seen any problems in our area, but I was rarely out alone at night. I quickened my pace, feeling more uneasy than I usually did. Hey! A man called out sharply. I chose to ignore him, but the footsteps got louder behind me. Wishing I had picked better shoes, I made a mental note to dress more wisely next time. My heart raced when I realized there was someone right behind me. A hand grabbed my elbow first gently, then more forcefully as he missed. He pulled me closer, just like David had, but his grip was rough, and it hurt. A bad smell of alcohol and smoke hit me as I looked at him. He was a young man in a big hoodie and baggy jeans, and that did nothing to ease my fear. He was short and stocky, with messy hair and a strange look on his face. Does the name Lou Alvarez mean anything to you? he slurred, holding on tighter. His eyes looked dazed. "Let go," I said, trying to sound brave while pulling my arm back. He moaned, leaning a little closer. "You smell nice." With nowhere else to turn, I raised my purse and swung it at him with all my strength. He shouted, and I quickly pulled my arm away from his grip. I took a step forward, but he caught me again, gripping my arm tightly. I fell to my knees. "Olivia," he said with a growl, and I felt a rush of fear. Hearing my name from him made his cold eyes seem more threatening. "It is Olivia, right?" "Who are you?" I managed to ask. He leaned closer and said, "I'm here about my brother Lou." "What?" I replied, feeling confused. "Bill will know," he said as he pushed me away. Without thinking about his words or catching my breath, I ran to my apartment without checking to see if he followed. Once inside, I locked the door and leaned against it, feeling relieved. Bill had never mentioned Lou Alvarez, or if he had, I didn't remember. I pulled out my cell phone, found Bill's name, and stared at the screen until it turned off. How could I explain being out so late? I had never had a reason to hide anything from Bill, but the thought of telling him the truth made me hesitate. I went straight to my bedroom, kicking my shoes off onto the carpet before climbing into bed. I wrapped myself in the comforter and thought about what the man had said. What would he have done if he found Bill? I woke up suddenly when I reached for a body that wasn't there. I sighed, remembering Bill was away, and then thought about the strange night before. Sitting up, I looked around my softly lit room and realized I was still in my blouse but had taken off my pants while I slept. I quickly got out of bed and fumbled toward the couch where I had thrown my things the night before. I grabbed my phone and got ready to call Bill, but stopped as I hovered my thumb over his name. Sleep hadn't helped, and I felt even more confused. I tossed the phone back into my bag and decided to wait until after my shower. As the warm water washed over me, I let the questions come. Who is Lou Alvarez, and how is he connected to Bill? Did it have to do with one of his cases at work? Should I just stay quiet with Bill to avoid lying about where I was, or whom I was with? David. Would I see him again? Was he upset with me? My mind went back to the eager waitress, but I shook it off. Someone had tried to confront me last night and might come back. He likely knows where I live, and I was alone for the next week. I decided that worrying wouldn't help. Feeling down and lonely without Bill, I picked out a fitted charcoal dress with cap sleeves and a cropped black cardigan to match my mood. I used concealer to cover the dark circles under my eyes from a restless night. I applied some mascara to make my tired eyes look more awake. However, it was too much effort, so I gave up and put the makeup away in the drawer. Serena came into my new office carrying 2 cups of hot coffee. "Thank you. How was your weekend?" I asked her as I sat down. "Awesome," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "Brock and I saw Enter the Dragon at the theater downtown." "Enter the Dragon? What's that?" I asked, puzzled. "It's a classic martial arts movie," she explained eagerly. "There was a special screening at the Music Box Theater." "Oh," I said, smiling. "So, do you like martial arts?" "I absolutely love Chinese cinema. Brock does too," she said with enthusiasm. "When did you start enjoying that?" I asked curiously. She thought for a moment. "About 8 months ago, maybe even a bit longer." "And you've been dating Brock for—" I prompted. "It'll be a year and a few months," she said proudly. "Nice. Thanks for the coffee," I said. "Oh, one more thing," she added as she handed me a folder. "Mr. Beeman wants you to refer to yourself as the associate editor for now. He said it's important for your reputation." "That sounds just like him," I replied quietly. "Also," she continued, "one of the guys from Most Eligible can meet today, but it's his only time. He sounds really busy." "Busy is a good thing," I said, looking through the file. He seemed impressive. "Is he good-looking? Can you get a photo for me?" "Oh, trust me, he is. All the girls rated him a 10. Lisa already gave her approval. I can send you a photo, but can you handle the interview, or should I ask Lisa instead?" I frowned. I didn't want Lisa taking this opportunity. "I'll take care of it. Just send me the address and I'll get ready." "Oh, he's actually coming here. He insisted on meeting in the office." "Oh, that's fine. Can you check that the kitchen is stocked? I want to offer him a drink or something." "Good morning, ladies," Mr. Beeman said suddenly, making Serena jump. I see you have Starbucks. Anything for me? He looked at Serena as she hesitated. I'm sorry, I can go back and get something. What would you like? She offered. Nothing, he replied sharply. Get to work. Olivia, come here for a minute. Even though he was small, his presence made the office feel more cramped. Good morning, Mr. Beeman. How are you today? I asked. I need an update on the most eligible article, he stated. It's going well. I have an interview today with a Mr. Lucas Dillon, I said. Beeman raised his eyebrows. The architect? I nodded, glancing down to confirm. Great. Just remember, don't call him Lucas. He prefers his last name, he said, wagging his finger. I nodded to show I understood. We've tried for years to get him involved, but he's very private and only does interviews about his work. Actually, Architectural Digest featured him in last month's issue. You should check it out. Thank you, Serena, I thought. This would be a great chance for you, Liv, he said. If you can get him in the magazine, well, he paused, it would be quite impressive. His expression changed at the last word, and I bit my lip to hold back a reaction. Mr. Beeman, I'd like to share an idea with you. He glanced at his watch and nodded briefly. Besides the launch party for the issue, I think it would help us to have a special meet and greet for the top candidates. Many of them are local stars, which would bring in attention. We could have our website post some pictures later to get people excited about who will be featured. He thought this over as he shifted his jaw. Publicity would be good. I want this issue to be a highlight of the year, he said logically. Get me some numbers by Wednesday and I'll see what budget I can provide. It won't be much, so work with the publicity team to find some sponsors to help cover the costs. Sounds good. I'll look into it. Oh, and I suggest putting on a bit of lipstick before you meet Mr. Dillon. It's nice to look good for him. He walked away and I ran my fingers through my hair. Why does it matter how I look for him? I was just asking him questions, not testing him. Beeman's suggestion made me both laugh and cringe because I wasn't sure if he really believed that. The phone had become more noticeable with each passing minute, demanding my attention. I knew I had to call Bill, and this time I would have to lie. But I felt I had no choice. Hi, how are you? I said when he answered. Hey, Liv, can I call you back? I just got out of a meeting and have another one in 10 minutes. Actually, this is important, I began. Just then, my phone buzzed, and I reached for it instinctively, my eyes glued to the computer screen. Liv, Mr. Dillon's here. Jenny's voice was even higher than usual. Okay? Can you have Serena or one of the interns bring him back? She hadn't sent the photo, but it didn't matter now. Everyone else thought he was a sure thing. Quickly, I took off my sweater and grabbed my makeup bag, heading toward the small mirror Diane had installed behind the door. My hair looked pretty good, and I was pleased with it. Balancing the bag on the couch, I put on some raspberry lip gloss, thinking about Beeman's comment. Right back here, I heard. Just then, the bag tipped over, spilling things all over the floor. I crouched down, hurriedly picking everything up. A green lipstick tube caught my eye from behind the couch. Leave it, I thought, but I couldn't resist, so I steadied myself and reached for it. Hello, Olivia, I heard just as I grasped it. A pair of polished brown shoes was right in front of me. I paused, my eyes moving up to David's serious face. His hair was neatly styled, and his sharp navy suit looked perfectly tailored. He wore the collar open, and his confident presence surprised me. David? I stuttered as I regained my composure. If the office had felt small before, it now felt even tighter with him there. I stepped out of my heels and stood up, smoothing my hands over my dress. You're surprised. Were you expecting someone else? Yes. Lucas Dillon? I replied, glancing at myself in the mirror. Aha. Do you always do this much research before an interview? He teased. I go by my middle name. I looked at Serena, who was standing in the doorway, and then turned back to David. How could she have missed that? I'm sorry, you're right, welcome. I awkwardly extended my hand. I quickly tried to gather my thoughts, but I was just relieved I had listened to Beeman's advice. With a playful smile, he took my warm hand, sending a shiver up my arm. Sorry I'm so cold. It's chilly out there today. How about some coffee then? Serena asked. Sure, I said without thinking, narrowing my eyes at David. Once she stepped out and we were alone, I pointed to a seat and returned to my spot behind the desk. Mr. Dillon, I started. carefully saying his name. "I wasn't expecting to see you again." He laughed softly. "I should think not, after how you left last night." "Anyone else might take a hint," I joked. "I love what you've done with your office," he said, gripping the chair's arms. "Very colorful." I didn't like the stark white walls and the boring carpet. It looked worn and uninviting. The only personal touch was a photo of Lucy, Gretchen, and me that Lucy had brought during my first week. She even placed it on my old desk herself. "Well, I'm just borrowing it," I replied softly. While he looked around the room, I took a moment to observe him in the daylight. He was still mysterious, but in the office, with the desk between us, he felt less intimidating, and if possible, even more attractive. "That's right. This must have been Diane's office. I want to apologize if I came on too strong last night," he said, meeting my gaze again. I glanced at the door. Lowering his voice and leaning forward, he continued, "I don't know what got into me." "You came here to tell me that?" I asked. "How did you find me?" "It wasn't hard," he winked. My brows furrowed as Serena knocked lightly and entered the room. "Here you are, Mr. Dillon," she said, handing him a steaming cup of coffee. She placed the tray on the coffee table and passed me mine as well. "Thank you, Serena," I said. David looked at me over the edge of his mug while he took a sip. I felt a bit uneasy under his gaze. He finished drinking, holding the warm mug in his hands, looking at me closely. We both noticed Serena lingering near the door. "Thank you, Serena," I said again, this time more firmly. She smiled at David, even though he couldn't see her, did a small bow, and left the room. I thought she was a bit odd. "I'm not sure it's a good idea for you to be here," I said, tidying up some papers on the desk. "Why not?" he replied. "Nothing is happening." I felt a bit silly for thinking that something was wrong. I tilted my head and asked, "So you came here just to tell me that?" "No," he answered simply. "Diane asked me to write the article this year, but I turned her down. Now I've changed my mind." I paused and put the papers down. "Really?" I asked. "Why? Don't make me think too hard about it, or I might start questioning it myself." He smiled slightly, but I felt uncertain. This meant I would have to work with him until the article was finished, since he was likely to be involved. Maybe I had been wrong about him. Perhaps his visit was just for work. As if he could sense my thoughts, he added, "I never mix work with personal things. You have my word that I will be completely professional." Without realizing it, I stared at him. "You don't believe me," he said. "Do believe me, as I don't like repeating myself." I felt my confidence slip as his tone changed. "Stay composed, Olivia, stay composed." "I don't really have a choice," I noted, looking at his face. "Sure you do. It's your article," he said. "Don't worry about them," he added, waving his hand. "I can say it's a scheduling conflict if you're not comfortable." Part of me wanted to say no, to ask him to step back if it became too much. But I didn't know how to say that, and I didn't want to overreact. Plus, it would bring me closer to a promotion. "All right, let's do it," I decided, sitting up straight. He responded with a bright, innocent smile. I clenched my hands against my thighs, feeling the tension. I had never seen a smile like that before. It made me want to laugh and feel joyful. "Let's get started then," I said, pushing aside my hesitation. I reached for his file, and he suddenly jumped from his chair. My head shot up as he stared at my arm. "What the— Oh my God!" he stuttered, and I followed his gaze to see fresh purple marks appearing on my arm. "Oh," I said, looking between the marks and him. I shook my head as he tried to find the right words. "Olivia, I am really sorry." He ran his hand through his hair and looked at me, unable to look away. "No," I insisted, shaking my head more. No, this wasn't your fault." I tried to comfort him, wishing to see him relax. But instead his face became serious as our eyes met. I leaned back in my chair, nervously clutching my sweater. He walked around the desk and gently pulled my wrist to see the marks. He asked with concern, "How did this happen?" "It doesn't hurt," I said softly, knowing he might not believe me. It really didn't. I hadn't noticed anything until now, but the marks were clear. "Olivia, please tell me who did this. Was it me?" he asked, his voice shaking. I hesitated to answer. I hadn't even fully understood it myself yet. But it was clear he wouldn't let it go, and he was losing patience. I sighed and looked down. "Last night after I left you, I walked home. What? He interrupted, letting go of my wrist. You walked home last night? I wouldn't have let you. Do you know how risky that is? I blinked innocently, and his expression softened a bit. I thought of mentioning I had done it before, but decided against it. There was a man, and he was drunk. He tried to get my attention, but when I didn't respond, he seemed angry. He reached for me. David's eyes grew wide. But, I added before he could react, I used my purse to push him away, and I'm okay. Here I am. I shrugged and tucked my hair behind my ear. I can't believe you walked home. I should have made sure you didn't, he said quietly. You didn't stop me, David. I'm not your responsibility. He bit his lip and looked at me carefully. Okay, he said. What did your husband say? Did you call the police? He's out of town. David closed his eyes and shook his head. Then he opened one eye and seemed to prepare himself. You were alone last night? Yes. He let out a big breath. What if he had followed you home? He asked. I hesitated, avoiding his gaze. What's the matter? What aren't you saying? He paused. Olivia. His tone was firm and serious, almost making me freeze. I wondered if I stayed quiet, would he repeat himself? He was looking for Bill. Your husband? I wasn't sure if he had genuinely forgotten Bill's name or didn't want to say it. Yes, he's a lawyer and it's about one of his cases. I see. His jaw looked tight. So he was looking for your husband but found you. Do you know how? It happened right in front of my apartment. He knows where you live? And you stayed there alone? He tilted his head back and muttered something. Then he took out his phone and checked it. I didn't even hear it ring. Dylan, yes, no. How is that an emergency? David listened as he glanced at me. I understand. Okay. He hung up, still focused on me. I have to go. Is everything okay? It is. Just something I need to sort out. Are you safe here? Yes, I said, trying to sound certain. I really wasn't sure, but I didn't want to show that. It's not as serious as it seems. I'll be fine. It is serious. What about tonight? You can't stay alone. Bill thinks I should go to New York, but I'm not sure yet. I'll need to talk with Beeman. David seemed to relax a bit, but his worried expression stayed as we looked at each other. I could have stayed in that moment longer, but I turned away and handed him my card. Email me, and we'll pick this up another time. Shiny silver buildings glowing in the fading light filled the small airplane window. Beeman was not happy about my sudden need to leave, but I had promised him I could still work from afar. His irritation eased a bit when I told him that David had agreed to participate in the issue. I felt I might have overreacted by leaving my apartment, but the chance to escape for a few days was tempting. Bill reminded me that it had been over a year since my last break. I purchased a ticket, quickly packed a suitcase, grabbed my laptop, and took a cab to the airport. Everything happened so fast that I didn't have time to think about much more than that. I recalled my earlier conversation with Bill. The Alvarez brothers posed a real threat. Bill understood why I was feeling scared, but he couldn't figure out how Lou's brother Mark had discovered my whereabouts. Back when Bill was an assistant state's attorney, he had prosecuted Lou Alvarez for drug-related charges. Lou and Mark had been caught together. Bill had shown that Lou was connected to a gang, which added almost 10 years to his jail time. However, Mark's case wasn't linked to the gang, so he only received a 2-year sentence. Bill heard that Mark got out after 13 months for good behavior. He reassured me that the threat I received wasn't serious, but both of us decided it was wise to be cautious. Now, in New York, the yellow cab dropped me off at Bill's hotel. I checked in at the front desk and received a key along with a note that had details for our dinner plans. Is this far? I asked the concierge, handing him the note. 26th Street? Not at all, he replied, and showed me how to get there. It had been years since I visited New York, and I was eager to explore the city, blending in with the crowds before dinner. I thanked him and quickly freshened up before leaving the hotel. The shops had closed for the night, hiding beautiful clothes behind their gates. As I wandered down a side street, I heard music thumping through the windows. 2 young women, likely models, were laughing together, smoke drifting from their hands. Under their stylish tops, long flowing hair, and trendy shoes, it was clear that they were used to the lively scene of New York nightlife. I pulled my coat tighter around me. I hadn't done my hair or makeup before leaving the hotel, and I suddenly felt out of place. Even though I was almost as tall as them, I doubted that I had the same graceful presence. They seemed like the types that attracted charming and wealthy men. Men like David, I thought before shaking my head to clear my mind. I was far from home, yet I couldn't shake off the pattern that was starting to develop. My heart raced after our eyes first met. I shook my head and tightened my scarf around my neck, as if that could block these thoughts. I pushed the image of the women and what they stood for from my mind. At the restaurant, I was happy to see that Bill was already there, waiting at the bar. I quietly approached him as his gaze was fixed on a television behind the bottles of drinks. "Do you come here often?" I smiled, tucking a loose strand of hair behind his ear. He jumped slightly at my touch. "Hi." He checked his watch, then turned back to me. "Oh, I didn't realize the time," he said. "I missed you." He placed an arm around my waist in a friendly way. I awkwardly settled onto the bar stool. "I'm glad you're all right," he added, giving me a gentle squeeze. "Shall we eat?" The hostess led us to a small table in soft light and gave us our menus. After I made my choice, I looked up to find him watching me. "I've been worried," he said. "I know," I replied, trying to sound calm. "What were you doing out that late by yourself?" My thoughts returned to our earlier phone call, where I had managed to avoid answering that question. I knew he wouldn't let me escape it this time. Since Lucy would be a tough sell on a Sunday night, I decided to mention Gretchen. I wasn't sure how to convince her to help me, but I had faith she would. "Gretchen and I were just out for a couple of drinks, nothing wild." I twirled my wedding ring around my finger under the table. "We walk around Lincoln Park at night all the time," I added. "Together, yes." "I've done it alone too," I replied. "Whatever, Livs. I'm just glad you're safe, and I'll have to have a talk with Gretchen about this." "Please don't. She feels terrible and thinks it's her fault, even though it was really me. Just don't bring it up with her." He looked at me carefully, and then a look of understanding crossed his face. "All right, we'll see," he said, but I knew I had won. He usually didn't argue when I felt strongly about something. "You've been spending too much time with them," he added, crossing his arms on the table. "Can we drop this?" I asked, pushing my chair back from the table a little. "Order me the crab cakes. I'll be right back." The next morning, Bill left me at dawn with his credit card and, for the first time since we'd been married, told me to go shopping. When the door closed, I crawled back into bed, thinking about how he reacted the night before and the look of worry on his face. His concern annoyed me more than anything else. In bed, I turned to the window and then back again. After 20 minutes of staring at the wall, I decided to catch up on some work. I opened my laptop, and as the program loaded, I started to receive emails. When I saw David's name, my heart skipped a beat. I began reading from the bottom, carefully checking each message until I lost my focus and jumped ahead. From David Dillon. Sent, Mon, April 23, 2012, 4:26 p.m. CST, to Olivia Germain. Subject, your safety, Olivia. What did you decide about New York? Please let me know that you are safe tonight. How is Friday morning for our interview? David Dillon, Senior Architect, Pearson Greer. I smiled inside at his concern, thinking he probably sensed I was in New York. I continued to read the rest of my emails, but my curiosity kept distracting me. I opened a search browser. David Dillon. There he was. He wasn't at the top of the list, but he was among the first few. The first link was to an article in Architectural Digest. I opened it and saw David's serious face as he stood in front of one of his buildings. I scanned the 3-page article, noting that his firm, Pearson Greer, was close to my office. It said he was a key figure in modern architecture and one of the most sought-after architects in Chicago. They have to say that, I thought, rolling my eyes. I hit back and scrolled through a few more work-related links. GQS will acquire Multi-Parcel Express, CEO Gerard Dillon announces. GQS? The GQS? I wondered. I read closely about Gerard, the CEO of Global Quick and Speedy, a major shipping company. I returned to the main page and looked up Gerard's name, which brought up countless articles, both about his work and personal life. A profile showed a happy family. Gerard, his wife Judy, their daughter Jessa, and son David. It was easy to recognize David's sister with her dark hair, bright brown eyes, and long lashes. He looked so good in photos, with his strong features and serious gaze making a lasting impression. I browsed through pictures of him, mostly at work or events, and smiled at how his tall stature and broad shoulders stood out among others. A photo of him and his sister laughing while dressed in black looked like it came from a fashion magazine. A few rows down, I saw a picture of him on a red carpet, his arm resting casually behind a beautiful brunette with narrow green eyes. There were a couple more photos of her and one with a tall redhead. I shut the laptop with a thud. That was enough research for now. All I learned was that he looks great in a hard hat. I stepped into the warm, late morning air and headed straight to the nearest Starbucks for some coffee. I thought about staying to work but felt too restless, so I took my drink to go. New York was never short on shopping and people watching. The sidewalks were crowded with people stopping to take pictures or check out the stores along Fifth Avenue. I wandered through a few shops, admiring more than buying. Soon I found the impressive St. Patrick's Cathedral. Its strong beauty stood out with smooth, stone-colored marble. The detailed carvings on the building, from the base to the tall spire, were breathtaking. I climbed the steps and quietly entered behind a group of tourists. Inside, I felt the serious atmosphere that always comes with religious places. Visitors took pictures, trying to capture the grandeur of the architecture. I watched the candles at the altar flicker each time the doors opened. Suddenly, a familiar tune filled the room, making me realize it was coming from my purse. I quickly reached for my phone and rushed to the door. A swift swipe silenced the ringing. "Hello?" I said, a bit out of breath as I stepped outside. "Olivia?" His voice was just as strong on the phone, and I mentally kicked myself. "It's David Dillon. Serena said I could find you here." I sighed, wondering how he had gotten my number from her. "Hello, Mr. Dillon," I responded, trying to keep my nerves in check. "What can I do for you?" "I've been worried," he said. "I'm fine," I replied, pretending to be annoyed. "Everyone is overreacting." "What about your arm?" he asked. "It's healing well. What can I do for you?" I repeated. "Friday," he said. I felt annoyed that he ignored my terse tone. "Actually, Friday works if you want to talk on the phone. I'd prefer to meet in person. I'll find another time that works." Just then, my phone pinged in my ear and I pulled it away to read a text from Bill. April 24th, 2012, 4:17 p.m. Heading back now. "You'd really like it here," I said, changing the topic. "The architecture is amazing and the sights are delightful." "I've been to New York, Olivia. I travel there for business often," he replied. "Oh, of course," I said, feeling a bit embarrassed. He clearly knew the kinds of women who lived in this area. "Where are you?" he asked, his voice a bit softer. I looked around. I realized I had been walking aimlessly, lost in our chat. I squinted to find a street sign. "I actually don't know." "What?" "Well, I've just been wandering around. I was near St. Patrick's Cathedral." "Olivia, focus, please. I'm thinking of hiring you a bodyguard. Just think about how I've managed so far." "You caused trouble," he said quietly, and I had to listen closely. His voice made me feel something inside. "You know, I waited a whole day for your reply," he continued. "It was hard not to call you." "It hasn't been a whole day," I said. "It's 4:30, he replied simply. "Not in Chicago," I laughed. "You have a lovely laugh, Olivia Germain," he joked. I paused, feeling myself blush. "David," I began, "don't call me again here. You can email if it's important." "Got it," he said, surprisingly easygoing. "But tell me where you are." Madison Avenue," I read from the nearest sign. "Not surprising," he said thoughtfully. "Were you shopping?" "Well, I don't get to shop for myself very often," I explained. "I would enjoy taking you shopping." I could almost imagine him smiling on the other end. I was taken aback, not sure if he was serious. "Sure, Edward Lewis," I said, playing along. "Edward Lewis? Forget it, it's a movie reference. So that makes you Julia Roberts?" "No, that makes me Vivian." "Okay, Vivian, where are you staying? I'll help you get back." I kicked at the uneven sidewalk beneath me, thinking, "Don't worry, I won't visit or anything." I eventually told him we were staying in the meatpacking district. "Listen," he said, giving me directions to the hotel where I knew Bill would be waiting. My plan to forget him wasn't working, but I felt better knowing I wouldn't hear from him for a while. My heart sank a little too. That night, Bill surprised me with tickets to a show. We enjoyed the play, had a late meal at Sardi's, and stayed up late talking in our hotel room. We decided to extend our trip through the weekend. I was happy, as I usually was, but I couldn't shake the small knot in my stomach. Something had settled inside me that I found hard to let go. I looked up to see Gretchen in my doorway. "Hello, new office," she said with excitement. "How was your trip to New York?" "No apples there," I replied. "Remember when you almost moved there?" "Yep, that was for Ramon, but it didn't work out," she said, making me chuckle. "Are you ready to go?" "Just give me a minute to finish this email. Thanks for changing our lunch plans. Lucy is meeting us downstairs." "What's new with you?" she asked, dropping her fancy bag on the chair. "Nothing much. What did you do this week?" "I worked a lot. My boss kept me late until 8 for 3 nights in a row, and on Friday I had to go straight to an event from work. Saturday I went to a party with Ava and her friends. We might have had a little too much to drink, and I ended up in a debate on Twitter with someone. But before that, her coworker was there, and—" I shifted in my seat, feeling uneasy, and she paused. "Wait, why are you looking at me like that? What's going on?" I clicked send on my email and sat back in my chair, then leaned forward. "There's a reason I went away last week. Sunday night I was walking home and had a scary encounter with a guy." "Scary? What happened?" "He grabbed my arm and threatened me because Bill had prosecuted his brother when he worked as a state attorney." She jumped from her chair, covered her mouth, then sat down again. "Olivia, where did this happen?" "In front of my building." "Shh," I said, putting my finger on my lips. "It's been over a week, and honestly, I'm tired of thinking about it. So I thought it was a good time to get away and spend some time with Bill." Gretchen listened in silence, which was unusual for her. "You know you could have stayed with me." "I know, sweetie, but Bill suggested this and it happened. I'll just be more careful from now on." Gretchen leaned closer and put her hand on my arm. "Oh, Liv, I feel so bad you had to go through that." "I need a favor," I said, gently moving her hand away. She looked at me with concern as I continued. "If anyone asks, especially Bill, I need you to say we were together having drinks that night." "What's happening?" she asked, fiddling with her bag. "I can't explain right now," I said, meeting her curious gaze. "It's nothing serious, but I just don't want to discuss it. I really need you to trust me. Please promise you'll cover for me, even to Lucy." She nodded without surprise. "Of course, I'll cover for you. But if you need to talk about it, or if it becomes serious, you can come to me. I know you're tough, but I'll be here if you need me." She paused. "I still haven't forgiven you for freshman year of high school," she continued. "The way you shut everyone out after your parents divorced was hard. I wanted to help." I nodded. "Thanks. You're a great friend. I try, but sometimes you make it difficult." "Let's not go there," I sighed. "Anyway, Lucy just texted that she's downstairs. I'll share the details with you in the elevator, and then I'm curious to hear more about Ava's work friend." Lucy tapped her foot on the sidewalk. "These magazines are so heavy," she said. "They're really hurting my back. Let's go. Liv, did you bring my earrings?" "Earrings?" I replied as I took the bag from Lucy. "Yes, the chandelier earrings. We talked about this at my engagement party. I need them back, and you said you'd bring them last Monday." "I did?" Lucy sighed in annoyance. "Let's just get moving." "I don't remember that." "It's true," Gretchen added. "I was there." "Forget it, come on," Lucy said, already walking ahead. Gretchen gave me an encouraging smile as we walked, nodding toward Lucy. "Oh," I said. "Luce, I have something to tell you. It's about New York." She slowed down and turned around to listen. I told her a quick version of the story, feeling bad for not being honest. She responded kindly, and I hoped that would be the end of it so I wouldn't have to explain again. She apologized for being sharp about the earrings, and we shared a laugh. When we got to the restaurant, I felt relieved when the topic didn't come up again. The next night, Bill and I followed the host through a busy restaurant. I reached back for Bill's hand and squeezed it when I saw my father sitting straight-backed, sipping his favorite whiskey. He looked handsome as always, and I wasn't the only one who thought so. His hair had turned mostly gray now, with a few white strands at his temples. "Hi, Dad," I greeted him with a hug as he stood up. "Livs, you look so lean," he remarked, holding me at arm's length. "Bill." He shook his hand. "Hi, Mr. Germain. Nice to see you." "Is she eating enough?" he asked Bill cheerfully. Absolutely, Bill said, smiling at me. I do eat a lot, Dad. What are you doing in town? Nothing much. He waved his hand dismissively. I'm meeting with the VP at a local ad agency about doing some consulting work. How's business? Bill asked as he placed his napkin on his lap. Pretty good. I just finished a big project in Dallas that should bring me some new clients. I'm thinking about trading in the BMW for a new car. A new car, huh? Can't argue with that. Maybe we'll take that old one off your hands. I widened my eyes and held my tongue. Really? Olivia, don't make that face. You look funny. It was one of my father's favorite things to joke about, my big eyes. Once we move out of the city, we'll need to get you a car, Bill added with a slight smile. I gave him a playful look. Do you still want the old car, Olivia? I nodded. We'll see what happens with the new one. Any news at work? Not since last month, but today I worked on one of Lisa's designs and my boss really liked it. Does that mean you got the promotion? No, Dad, I won't know for a bit, I said as I took a sip of water. I know, kiddo, but maybe they'll give it to you soon. Keep thinking about the next step. Just make sure your boss notices how hard you're working. Waiter, he called to someone across the room. It's only been a month. That doesn't matter, Olivia. Stay focused on your goals, never give up, and make sure your boss sees your effort. Can we get some more water over here? He asked the waiter. Have you thought more about moving to New York? Isn't that where the top jobs are? Well, yes, I began. We've talked about it, Bill added, looking at me. But it's just not the right move for us. I'm still new in my job, and we really like Chicago. Besides, my family is here. I noticed my dad take a deep breath before saying more. What about Dallas, then? I'd love to have her closer. Bill, I have many friends there who own businesses. Or maybe you should think about starting your own. Dallas is a great place for that. I fought the urge to touch Bill's hand as he twirled his fork. Maybe, Dad. I'll think about it. Oh, no, you won't, Bobby Ewing. We like Chicago, Dad. You know we're looking for a house, and I really want this promotion. I just want you to aim high, sweetie, he replied. Did I tell you Lucy is getting married? He made a noise of surprise. What about Gretchen? When is she going to settle down? Oh, she's waiting for Kyle Korver, I said with a laugh. Who's that? He used to play for the Bulls, Bill chimed in. But he's married. I'd like to see her meet someone nice. Well, it may take some time, Bill joked. Why's that? She's a wonderful girl, very smart, unlike her brother. John is not a slacker, I said firmly. I agree, sir. I'm not fond of that kid. He's just a year younger than you. Anyway, Dad, Gretchen is doing fine. She's just enjoying her life. She wanted to come tonight, but had work. I just hope she doesn't turn into her mother. She can do better. How are things going, Bill? Is everything good at Spectre Inspector? Absolutely. I'm working on a few cases right now. One is quite important. They're keeping me busy. I looked at them closely. Next to my dad, Bill seemed a bit taller, but not as strong as usual. Good to hear, my dad said. Waiter, are we supposed to order? Get whatever you want, honey. Dinner is my treat. How's the market around here, Bill? I don't want Olivia to end up with someone who isn't good for her. We're being careful, sir. Something changed on my dad's face as he looked at Bill, but then the waiter arrived, taking his attention. What's happening with the divorce? I asked after we placed our orders. It will be finished next week. That's good to hear, I replied. I can imagine Gina is tough to handle. Definitely, he said, leaning back in his chair for the first time, but I've found that nobody is easy to deal with. That was tiring, Bill said. It usually is. That man gives you everything you want, Liv. I hope you don't expect that from me. I laughed. I'm his only child. Exactly, and you love it. He would buy you that car if you asked. Maybe, but you saw how much he cares about work. He believes you can do better in everything. Oh, stop it, I said, shaking my head at him. He likes you. I'm glad that after almost 5 years, your dad likes me. He's your father too now, so be careful, I said with a smile. Let's go get ice cream. I'll pay. Ice cream? He said, looking uncomfortable and rubbing his stomach. I'm too full. I just want to go home. Please? I asked. I'll be quick. No, Liv, the car is right here. I have to get up early tomorrow, and your dad wore me out more than usual. Fine, I said, my tone a bit annoyed, but I took his hand. Come on, old man. It had been over a week since I spoke with David. I kept looking at my email, hoping he had seen my invitation to the meet and greet I planned. Most people had replied quickly, but not him. I nervously twisted the pen in my hand. What if he decided not to join? Would it hurt my chance for a promotion? Could I move on from the feelings that had been slowly waking up in me? A week felt like a long time. I missed hearing his deep voice or seeing him think carefully as I spoke. Suddenly, my phone buzzed loudly on my desk. "Hi, Davina," I answered. "Actually, it's Mac," he replied gently. "Oh, hello, Mac. Sorry to interrupt your work." "It's fine. What's going on?" I asked, standing up to close the door. "We can't make it to dinner with your friends tomorrow," he said. "Is everything okay?" I asked, noticing his serious tone. "Things are tough. She's not well," he said. I leaned against my desk, feeling worried. "She claims she's fine, but I think it's best to keep her home for now." "What do the doctors say?" "She had an infection a few weeks back and has lost a lot of weight. This happened before when she was getting treated, and it took her months to get better. After everything she's faced, I don't know if she has the strength to fight it again." "Oh, Mac, I'm so sorry," I said. I wished I could give him a comforting hug. I had never heard him so upset. It hit me hard that he had to be strong for Davina until now. "She's a tough woman," I assured him. "She'll be okay." "She might not be, Liv. Just remember that." I fell silent, feeling shocked. If Davina couldn't get through this, who could? "I should go," Mac's voice said, breaking my thoughts. "She'll want some tomato soup soon, so I need to run to her favorite deli. Please tell Lucy we're sorry we can't make it." After I hung up, I thought about their relationship. They had always loved deeply and faced struggles together. No matter what, Mac had always supported Davina, keeping her safe. Now, the body he adored was failing her, and he felt helpless. The thought made me uneasy. I wondered how my relationship with Bill measured up. How would he handle it if I were that unwell? Would he instinctively know what I needed? Mac and Davina had been married for over 30 years, so surely Bill would understand me deeply after that long. "Did you catch that game the other night?" Bill shouted to the doorman as we walked through Andrew and Lucy's lobby. "It was rough," the doorman replied. "You know it," Bill answered as we stepped into the elevator. "Did I mention you look nice tonight?" I said, smiling as the doors closed. "Really? If you play your cards right, you might get a reward." "Is that so?" I teased. "I have a surprise for you." "What is it?" "I'll tell you later." "Seriously, what is it?" "Okay, I started a new medication," I said with a grin. "No more extra precautions. Though we can't begin for a few more days, I thought I'd wait one more week just to be safe." "What?" I said when I spotted his expression change. The elevator beeped and he stepped off. "Incredible," he muttered. "What?" "I researched this a lot and spoke to the doctor. I thought you'd be happy. You always—" "Not now, Liv." "I thought I heard voices," Andrew said as he opened the door. "Come on in." Lucy appeared behind him, drying her hands on a cloth. I wondered if it was the same one David had used earlier. "What's that wonderful smell?" Bill asked, handing Lucy a bottle of wine. Before she could reply, Andrew hugged me tightly. He pulled back and squeezed my shoulders. "Our brave girl. I hear you're quite the fighter," he said, smiling, and gave me a light pat on the head. "You're just in time," Lucy said. "Have a seat. Food will be ready soon." We spotted Gretchen and her date, an accountant she had met at a coffee shop, enjoying some snacks in the living room. As I went to sit next to her, I felt the need to take off my shoes to avoid making the floor dirty. Andrew poured a glass of wine for Bill and me while asking about New York. They laughed about my poor sense of direction, with Bill mentioning the times I had led us the wrong way. She said, "I've been here many times, Bill. Just trust me." I should have listened to my gut and gone the other way. "Oh, come on, you were even more lost," I teased, giving him a light push. "Andrew, can you help everyone get seated?" Lucy called from the kitchen. We found our spots around the table as Lucy served a beautiful selection of delicious food. "How is everything at S&S?" Andrew asked Bill. "Great. How about you? How's work?" "Pretty good," Andrew said, starting to eat. I noticed how he neatly arranged his food. I thought things would slow down more with the economy, but we're doing well. We've been lucky our office in New York has been hit harder. I guess investment banking isn't doing well there right now. You should see their new building, Lucy added happily. It's almost done, and it looks amazing. I'm excited for Andrew to be closer to home. Oh, really? Bill asked. Andrew nodded as he chewed. The place is fantastic, just like Lucy said. My boss owns it, and I can't imagine how much he spent on it, he said. The architect is exceptional. He's from here but has studied in Europe and maybe even Asia. He's a really interesting person. Plus, he owns a sailboat. I felt a little uneasy. I remembered the night when Andrew had introduced me to David. I opened my mouth to change the topic. That sounds interesting, Bill said before I could. Maybe he designs homes too? He suggested, looking at me with raised eyebrows. Oh, I'm sure he charges a lot, I replied. How is that going for you two? Lucy asked. Bill sighed. We have an appointment with our realtor tomorrow. We started looking at the right time, but nothing has felt quite right yet. At least, not for this one. He pointed in my direction, and I nodded in agreement. Well, Andrew said, you could always consider building your own place. In fact, David has mentioned he enjoys flipping houses as a hobby. I'll ask him about it and let you know. Oh, no, please don't do that. He was at our engagement party, Liv. David Dillon, Lucy said, glancing at me. I shrugged and tried to act like I didn't know, but Gretchen seemed to get excited. Oh, come on, Lucy continued. Tall and charming. He's hard to forget. I looked at her glass, wondering if that was the reason for her excitement. Andrew, however, seemed unfazed. Of course, Liv. You remember. I introduced you two in the kitchen, he said. Oh, yes, I replied, feeling stuck. Bill, this guy is something else. All the women in the office get excited whenever he visits. I think they have a kind of game to see who can get a date with him. He laughed, and I started to wonder if I was losing my mind. Bill just nodded and chewed his food. I adjusted my dress and crossed my legs, trying to get comfortable. If I were smarter, I'd tell Luce not to work with him. Gretchen and I paused, sensing the change in the chat. What's going on? I asked. Oh, Lucy giggled a little. He asked Andrew for my information because he needs a new personal stylist. I doubt anything will happen, but I have to admit, she said, looking at Andrew. He could be a good client. I think he has money and connections. Sure seems that way, but I don't know for certain, Andrew agreed. Gretchen looked tense, and I held back a laugh despite my worries. I glanced at her date, who seemed bored. Lucky guy, Bill said while eating a potato. He sounds like a good catch. Lucy, I suddenly said, catching everyone's attention. I needed a new topic. How's the wedding planning going? I asked, pointing my fork at her ring. Her face brightened. When in doubt, talk about weddings, I thought. Actually, we have some exciting news, she said, glancing at Andrew. We've set a date. It's the first weekend in September. September? I asked, surprised. This year? That's only 4 months away. I know. I could hear some uncertainty in her voice. It's also Labor Day weekend, but Andrew's parents are going on a trip around the world in October, and it's important to us that they be there. Why not wait for them to come back? Gretchen asked. Well, they don't know when that will be. Andrew's dad has been planning this trip for 10 years, and they aren't sure when or even if they'll be back. And then there's my aunt, too. How is she doing? She's stable, Andrew said. But that could change any day, and we don't want to risk it. Anyway, Lucy said, clearly wanting to change the subject. Labor Day it is, so mark your calendars. You're going to be busy, I said simply. Lucy nodded in agreement. She went to the kitchen and returned with a homemade cheesecake, which earned applause from the guys. Her cooking skills always amazed me. She served everyone but Gretchen, who claimed she was too full. Lucy then shared more about the next few months, much to Bill's annoyance, I could tell. Geez, Liv, I don't get how you eat so much, Andrew said suddenly, pointing at my empty plate. I turned red, and we all laughed together. Janine turned on the signal, and Bill leaned forward from the passenger seat, eager to see the house. She pointed ahead to where it sat behind tall trees. I looked around at the quiet neighborhood from my open window, enjoying the soft sounds of leaves moving gently in the breeze. As she drove down the street, I admired the beautiful old houses that stood proudly. They seemed solid after many years. Bill turned from the front seat. "The drive wasn't too bad, right? Oak Park is easy to get to," he said, looking out the windshield. "It really is," Janine replied, glancing at him. "You can also take the L train. It's about a 30 to 40-minute ride." Bill's excitement about leaving the city made me feel uneasy. Still, I had to admit it wouldn't be too far from my beloved Chicago, and Bill would enjoy a slower pace. Compromise, Olivia. When we arrived at the house, I was surprised by its beauty. Its impressive features stood out even though the place was a bit worn down and covered in overgrown plants. It had a charming character that I appreciated. I liked that it was different from the other houses around, with its strong angles and simple lines, yet it still fit into the neighborhood. I unbuckled my seatbelt and stepped out, wanting to see more. The dry grass crunched under my feet as I squinted against the setting sun. "Olivia!" I heard Janine call as she and Bill crossed the street. "Over here!" I looked behind her and saw the for sale sign firmly planted in the green grass. Confused, I searched for a similar sign on my own lawn but found nothing. Feeling silly, I hurried across the pavement to join Bill and Janine, who were excitedly chatting and hadn't noticed my mix-up. In front of me was another lovely house, but it didn't capture my heart like the first one. Janine led us inside the creaky house and showed us around enthusiastically. We climbed the stairs to find a huge master bedroom. To Bill, that room would be the highlight of the house. While he and Janine talked about features, I wandered down the hall into a smaller room that looked out at the street. I looked at the bright green lawn from the second story, taking in its peaceful beauty. A cracked window let in the fresh spring air, and I thought maybe the suburbs weren't so bad after all. I noticed the other house across the street again. From my spot, it seemed even more out of place among the nicer homes. I began to picture how it could look with a tidy hedge, a pretty stone path, and a new coat of paint. "What do you think?" Bill asked from behind me. "I like the house across the street," I said honestly, still looking out the window. Bill was quiet for a moment. "If you were over there, you'd probably like this one." Sometimes his words felt too sharp, and I wondered how he could say them without feeling it. I turned to face him. "That's not fair." "No? You haven't liked any of the houses Janine has shown us. This one is the best so far. It's perfect, Liv. Good neighborhood, within our budget, and bigger than we expected." "You're right. It is a nice place. I'm just not sure if it feels like home. I can't picture myself living here." "It's not just about you, Liv. I'm in this too. We need to think about our future." "I understand, Bill," I said, feeling a bit frustrated. "But buying a house is a big choice, and I want to make sure we pick the right one." "Nothing will be perfect. There will always be something, Liv. It will feel like home. You just need to give it time." I shook my head, feeling a bit stubborn. Just then, Janine came up to Bill. "I see you found the second room." She smiled gently, and I sensed that this was something she did many times before. "Great for an office or maybe a kid's room?" I looked between them, and Bill laughed a little nervously. "We're not quite there yet," he told Janine. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, almost by instinct. "Most couples moving from the city are looking to start a family." I could tell Bill felt a little awkward. "Yes, of course," I said politely. "It's a lovely home." "What about the house across the street?" I asked. "Oh," she replied, going over to the window. "It's quite a sight. The owners live in California and haven't taken care of it for a while. I think some neighbors have tried to report it, so maybe one day they'll sell it or fix it up. I can find out for you." I put my hand on the glass. "It does have its charm." "I suppose," she agreed. "But it needs some work. This house, however, well, it won't be on the market long." I turned from the window to Bill, whose face looked tense. "Let's get more information then," I said, avoiding looking at either of them as I left the room. Back at the apartment, Bill stayed in the kitchen while I made dinner. I didn't want to bring up the topic again, but I felt he would push it. I started washing the lettuce, thankful for something to keep me busy. "So about this afternoon," he started. I sighed with my back to him. "Here," I said, turning to give him a knife and pointing to 2 red tomatoes on the cutting board. "Can you chop these?" He took the knife and started cutting. "What are you thinking?" "About what?" I asked, focusing on the sink. "Today. Can you be more specific?" He was quiet for a moment, and all I could hear was the knife chopping on the board. That house is as good as it's going to get, and we shouldn't wait too long. Yep, I know. I said I'd think about it. And Janine's right. We should start considering a family. I sighed deeply. I'm feeling the same way I did 6 months ago when we talked about this. And especially now, if I get this promotion, I just don't feel ready. Olivia, you might never feel ready. It's the same with the house. The timing will never be right. You just have to go for it, and the rest will follow. I felt tense and worried. It wasn't just that I didn't feel ready. Honestly, I didn't want it at all. I feared I might never want it. I remembered before Bill had asked me to marry him. We had talked about our future, and I had promised him I would be ready for children one day. Did that mean I owed it to him now? I need more time. I'm ready now. I turned to him in disbelief. Now? He was quiet again, but had stopped chopping food, holding the knife tightly. Bill, be reasonable. I'm not ready. I heard you the first time, but you are. We are. I don't want you to start taking birth control. Don't pressure me, Bill. This is a huge choice. It's not just a choice, Liv. It's a feeling. I'm ready, and so are you. Stop saying that. You don't know how I feel. What if you're wrong? What if we aren't ready? I don't want to end up like... I paused. Like what? He asked, looking hurt. Like your parents? I didn't respond, turning away from him again. That's totally different. They didn't separate because of you. They changed. They grew apart. We were silent, and the sound of the faucet running filled the kitchen. I knew I hadn't caused their breakup, but the year before it happened was very difficult for me. Bill and I were happy now, but were we strong enough to bring a child into our lives? And was that even what I wanted? Maybe you were right, he said after a pause. Maybe you're not ready. We've been married for nearly 3 years and you still won't let me in. I don't know how else to help you commit, Olivia. I've tried to be patient, but I want this and that won't change. Promise me you'll really think about it. Before I could reply, I heard him drop the knife on the table and walk out of the kitchen. It's Gretchen. I took the phone from Bill's hand so he could return to his thoughts. Those were the first words he'd said to me since the night before. Luckily, the latest James Patterson book had kept him busy for most of the morning. So, I think I told you about the chef I've been dating? Gretchen's voice came through the phone. His restaurant's soft opening is tonight, and he wants me to invite people. You guys interested? She couldn't have picked a better time to ask. Bill and I needed something to take our minds off each other. Let me call you back. I thought you wanted a quiet weekend, Bill said when I shared this with him. He marked his place in the book and closed it. I do, I said thoughtfully. I did, but I think it could be fun, and it's an invitation from the head chef. Babe, no, I'm not feeling it right now. I called Lucy while Bill went back to his book. Hey, she answered after a couple of rings. Are you all going tonight? I asked. Not sure yet. Andrew is a bit upset about it. I guess there's a game on, she replied. Oh, really? I said, raising my eyebrows at Bill, who ignored me. I covered the phone and said, A game? Seriously, Bill? He shrugged, so I rolled my eyes. Maybe we should just have a girls' night, I suggested, knowing Bill wouldn't be thrilled about that. I was thinking the same. Oh, we can really dress up, too. I'll check in with Andrew. Livs, come on, Bill began. Not my problem. You're welcome, I said sharply as I walked away. I waited for the shower to warm up, watching steam rise over the door. I looked in the mirror, taking in my slim figure. I touched the small scar on my side, a reminder of the past. I had gotten the distance I wanted from David. I still hadn't heard from him, and it worried me to realize that distance didn't help. If anything, I thought about him more. I wondered what he was up to and why he hadn't called. Standing in Bill's bathroom, I remembered our last talk when I told him not to call. Just business, I reminded myself. After arguing with Bill, I needed to focus on the life I was building, really important, actually. I blinked, my reflection slightly blurry in the foggy glass. I tugged on my earlobe as I looked through my closet and decided on a one-shoulder gold sequined dress. Livs! Bill called from the other room. Lucy's here! I grabbed my black shoes and went out to greet her. Well, don't you look nice? I said. Not so bad yourself, she replied, smiling sweetly. Is this too much? I asked. Bill looked my way. Aren't you going to be cold? I'll take a coat. He shifted his gaze up and down me. Is this dinner thing a big deal? Lucy shrugged. We just wanted to dress up a bit. Well, you both look amazing. He turned the TV volume back up. And please don't run off with the chef, he joked. I wondered if he was in a better mood because we had company or if he was over our argument from last night. I never knew with him but appreciated it either way. I leaned over the couch and let my hair fall onto his shoulder. Don't wait up, I said, giving him a friendly pat. When we got there, we found Gretchen at the bar with her roommates, Ava and Bethany. They were chatting happily, as if they hadn't seen each other just yesterday. Lucy and I tried to join in their conversation about love and dating. I could enjoy stories from their side, but my own stories felt finished, at least none that these girls would want to hear. Ava, who was looking for a partner, would probably be let down by the simple relationship I had with Bill. Bethany, who was happily single, would find it unexciting. It didn't bother me, as I was glad to be in a relationship now. After one drink, the hostess walked over and interrupted our laughter. Harper? She asked, looking at our group. That's me, Gretchen said, getting off her stool. I'm sorry for the wait, Miss Harper. She stepped back and let us grab our things. Jeff wanted us to prepare a special table for you as his guests. She led us to a round table in the center. I looked back at Gretchen and whispered, Jeff the chef? Lucy and I giggled as Gretchen rolled her eyes. Grow up, she said with a smile. Gretchen preferred to face the door, keeping an eye on the crowd, and we settled in around her. Soon after, a waiter came with a nice bottle of wine and poured us each a glass. Another person brought a plate of snacks, and our conversation picked up quickly as we enjoyed ourselves. Gretchen shared that Jeff had been trying to impress her for weeks, but she had just agreed to a first date. I could get used to this, Bethany said, excited. I can't wait to see what happens next. Totally, Ava said, finishing her glass. Suddenly, I noticed a heavy sound in the crowd. My body tensed, and I sank lower in my chair, feeling uneasy. Gretchen had stopped talking and was staring past me. Would I have time to slip away to the restroom before he saw me? I still felt upset that he had moved on so quickly. Lucy, who was tipsy beside Gretchen, smiled and waved. Well, if it isn't my lucky day. A chill ran down my spine. I looked up and was surprised to see David. He looked great in a dark coat which was open over a sweater. His eyes found mine, and I could feel that familiar connection. Then I noticed her, the girl from the internet. She was tall in high heels that made her legs look long. Her wavy hair was a warm caramel shade, framing her striking green eyes. She wore a tight red dress that showed off her fit body. A wave of jealousy hit me, and I gripped my seat tightly. I was surprised by how strong that feeling was. She looked so elegant, and her skin matched David's perfectly. I met his gaze and felt a small thrill seeing the confusion in his eyes. Next to them stood a serious-looking man, slightly shorter than the girl, with a noticeable nose and piercing eyes. Indeed, a lucky day, he said with a noticeable French accent, glancing at each of us. A shiver went through me when David arrived, and I nervously touched my earlobe. He looked at me with a curious expression, tilting his head slightly. I quickly pulled my hand away, feeling embarrassed that he was here with his lovely companion. I scolded myself for thinking I could hold his interest. I didn't know you'd be here, David. Lucy's voice broke my thoughts. Arnaud, my colleague, he started, gesturing to the man beside him, invited me and Maria for the opening. This was his project. Oh, that's wonderful! Congratulations, Lucy said happily. Gretchen nodded eagerly, her gaze jumping between Arnaud and David. Thank you, Arnaud replied. I focused ahead, clasping my hands in my lap. I realized I was sitting too stiffly, so I tried to relax in my chair but ended up straightening back up, feeling uncomfortable. Gretchen knows the head chef, Lucy explained. A friend of mine, Gretchen added quickly with a laugh. Just a friend. David? I heard one girl whisper quietly. I peeked over. She seemed uninterested, staring ahead and ignoring us. He asked, distracted. She pointed at the waitress waiting at their table. Ah, we should sit down. Good to see you again, Lucy. Gretchen, Olivia, ladies, he added. Hearing my name from him felt special amid the busy kitchen. I avoided his gaze, sensing his uncertainty. No one noticed my strange behavior. They were all focused on him. He remembered my name, Gretchen whispered excitedly. I just said it, Lucy replied. Ava and Bethany leaned in closer. "Tell us!" one of them urged. "He's a friend of Andrew's." Their attention shifted to Lucy. "And guess what? He has a meeting with me next week." "Wow!" Gretchen squealed. "You're so lucky! You'll get to see him!" Lucy blushed and shook her head. "My work isn't like that, Gretchen." "Was that his girlfriend?" someone wondered. Not sure," Lucy thought. "I think he has a few friends," she said with a giggle. "Lucy, you should help a girl out," Gretchen said seriously. "Yeah, this girl," Ava added, causing more laughter. "I don't know," Lucy hesitated. "I really don't know him well. He's Andrew's friend, but he seems nice." "Liv, you okay?" Bethany asked, glancing at me. Yeah." The news about David and Lucy made my heart race. I hadn't told anyone about his part in the article. "I think I might have had too much wine," I confessed. Everyone laughed, and I joined in. We all felt good. "I'm going to use the restroom." I stood up and felt eyes on me. I realized I often sensed when he was watching, even if I didn't see him. "Anyone else?" I asked, not wanting to go alone. "I could go," Lucy said. "Me too." Gretchen stood, tossing her hair back as she left her seat. I hurried to the restroom, with Gretchen and Lucy following. Gretchen reached the mirror first, fixing her lipstick. I admired how pretty she was. A twinge of sadness hit me, knowing she might catch David's eye. Lucy joined us to touch up as well. "Oh," she said excitedly, "I think I found bridesmaid dresses. Can you all make it one day next week for a fitting?" "Of course," Gretchen replied eagerly. Lucy looked at me and I shrugged. "I'm in," I said, and she clapped her hands happily. "What do they look like?" "Very simple. Since we're doing navy and ivory, I thought a wine red would look nice. You'll both love the style, no worries." "Sounds lovely, Lucy," Gretchen said. Back at the table, new dishes had arrived, and I decided to try some to balance out my wine. Just as I bit into a spring roll, my clutch buzzed on my lap. Everyone else was deep in conversation, so I checked my phone. It was a message from an unknown number. I quickly scrolled through my call history and confirmed it was from David. May 5th, 2012, 8:43 p.m. What's wrong? May 5th, 2012, 8:45 p.m. I don't understand. "Here, Livs," Bethany said, filling my glass with more wine. "Thanks," I replied quietly. My phone buzzed right away. May 5th, 2012, 8:46 p.m. "You know what I mean? Don't pretend. How are you getting home?" May 5th, 2012, 8:46 p.m. "Why do you ask?" I wasn't sure where to look while I waited. I wished I had sat on the other side of the table, and I thought Gretchen might feel the same. Would it be obvious if we switched seats? I took a long sip of wine. May 5th, 2012, 8:48 p.m. "You've had too much to drink. How did he know? He seemed to read people really well." May 5th, 2012, 8:48 p.m. So what? May 5th, 2012, 8:50 p.m. I'll come over there and ask everyone. How are you getting home? May 5th, 2012, 8:52 p.m. I thought I'd get a ride with a friend. May 5th, 2012, 8:53 p.m. Very clever. I'm coming over. May 5th, 2012, 8:53 p.m. No. I quickly typed a reply and glanced in his direction. May 5th, 2012, 8:54 p.m. I walked with Lucy. Why does it matter? May 5th, 2012, 8:55 p.m. You know it does. With every sip, I felt a bit bolder. May 5th, 2012, 8:57 p.m. I haven't heard from you in a while. May 5th, 2012, 8:59 p.m. I've been away. I didn't see why that was a big deal. I opened my purse to put the phone away, but it buzzed again. May 5th, 2012, 9 p.m. And you told me not to call. May 5th, 2012, 9:01 p.m. I meant my cell. May 5th, 2012, 9:01 p.m. Is it the same for texting? I replied with a quick yes and tucked my phone away, thinking the conversation was done. Just then, the chef, Jeff, came over, and we quietly clapped for him. "Thank you," he said with a small bow. "How's everything, Gretchen?" "It's delicious, Jeff," she replied with a smile. He blushed a little. "That's great to hear. I'll bring out a special dessert just for my table." He glanced at Gretchen as he spoke. "But I can't stay. Have a good evening, ladies," he called as he headed back to the kitchen. As I watched him leave, my gaze shifted to David. Maria was talking to him, but he didn't seem to be paying attention. Instead, he was looking at me. Arnaud, on the other hand, appeared very interested, even though Maria was focused on him. I turned away, trying to focus on my own table. When I looked back, David's seat was empty. I felt a little dizzy from the red wine. When everyone stood up from the table, I glanced at David's table again. He had returned and was talking excitedly with Arnaud. Bethany, Ava, and Gretchen decided to move to the bar while Lucy and I said our goodbyes. I checked my watch and realized it was much later than I thought. The restaurant was mostly empty, but we hadn't noticed the time flying by. We put on our jackets and stepped outside into the cool air. A yellow cab was waiting by the curb, and the driver, who had been leaning against the car, came over to offer us a ride. "We should probably take it," I said. "Definitely," Lucy agreed. My feet hurt. We got into the car and rolled down the windows for some fresh air. "There will be 2 stops," I told the driver while providing the addresses. "I could have had another drink, but I couldn't deal with Bethany's chatter anymore." Lucy laughed. It was rare for her to say anything unkind, and I nudged her playfully. "What? It can be a bit much." "I guess it can be," I said, enjoying the breeze from the window. "Tonight was fun," I thought aloud. "Hey, is everything okay with Bill?" I snapped back to the conversation. "What? Yes, why do you ask?" "Just a feeling," she said cautiously. "It seemed a bit tense when I was over earlier." "Oh, that! Yes, it was just a disagreement yesterday. I'm surprised you noticed. Sorry if it made things awkward." "Oh, no. It wasn't awkward, I just thought something seemed off." "What was it about?" "Nothing major, just all the house hunting stress. You two might have to deal with it soon, too," I said, nudging her again. "I don't know, we love our place." "But if you ever want to think about kids—" I let my words hang in the air. Her eyes widened. "Are you guys—" No, I quickly replied, looking back out the window. "Bill just wants more space, and you never know what could happen." "That would be so exciting," she said, but her voice seemed distant. "Please, Lucy," I urged. "I really don't want to talk about that." "Oh, sorry. Gretchen mentioned tomorrow is your mother's birthday," she added thoughtfully. I turned my head to look at her and sighed. "So, are you going to call her?" I pursed my lips. I hadn't thought about it. "You should, Livs. I'm sure she'd like that." When I didn't reply, she moved closer, put her arms around me, and gently touched my cheek. "I'll see you next week, right?" I looked up and saw we were getting close to her building. "Sure," I said, smiling. "I can't wait to see my bridesmaid dress." I turned down her offer to pay and told her I'd get the next one. I watched her climb the steps and disappear through the doors. After we drove away, I took out my phone and saw a text from earlier. May 5th, 2012, 9:09 p.m. "By the way, you look stunning in that gold dress, honeybee." I felt a tightness in my stomach. I should have been upset by the bold message, but just thinking about him looking at me made my mind race. I stared at the text almost all the way home until I finally swiped and deleted the whole conversation. "No charge this evening," said the cab driver as we reached the curb. "I'm sorry?" I asked. "No charge." He smiled in the rearview mirror. I narrowed my eyes. "Why not?" I pressed. His smile slipped and he glanced away. "No charge, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening." "Well, at least let me give you a tip," I said, reaching into my purse. "No, ma'am, no thank you. It's all taken care of." I stared at him, surprised. Refusing a tip? What? "All right," I finally said. "Good night." I stepped out of the cab and watched him drive away, curious about his unexpected kindness. Then I remembered my chat with David. He had set this up. He didn't want me to walk home alone. How did he know I would take a cab? Did he think he had me all figured out? That thought annoyed me. I sighed and stretched my legs. The wine had made me drowsy, and I woke up slowly. Bill reached for me and pulled me closer. I felt a moment of panic. It meant we hadn't had a chance to connect since the night I first met David. There he was again in my thoughts when I should be focusing on Bill. I felt him close to my neck. "Bill," I said softly. "I can't. I'm really hungover." And it was true. I felt a wave of sickness and sat up. Bill turned away with a sigh, clearly upset. I went to the bathroom to wash my face, letting the warm water ease me a bit. When I came back, he was gone, and I was welcomed by the smell of brewing coffee. "How was last night?" he asked, undeterred by my earlier response. "Nice," I said, climbing onto a bar stool. "The mood was good and the food was great." "And the head chef?" Seems really nice. Poor guy doesn't stand a chance against Gretchen, though. He laughed. How does she do it? She's pretty, but I wouldn't want to deal with that. Why not? She's always with someone new. Who knows how many people she's dated? Just thinking about it gives me a weird feeling. Sweetheart, she doesn't date every guy she meets, and if she did, so what? That doesn't mean she's a bad person. I'm just saying it would change everything for me. So if you learned I had a past, you wouldn't have gone out with me? Probably not. I wouldn't want to know that many people have seen my wife in a personal way. I'm not going to find that out, am I? He joked, making a face. No. I wasn't sure how to take that. Why should my past matter to Bill? Not only that, but she sometimes dates 2 guys at once. That's not too unusual when you're single. That doesn't feel right. Bill, come on. She's your friend. Don't judge her like that. Let's be honest, Liv. She doesn't seem to be making the best choices. One day it will catch up with her. He was trying to stir up a fight, but I stayed quiet and let it go. I had no issue with Gretchen enjoying her independence, and I knew she'd eventually meet someone wonderful who would accept her. Anyway, he continued, the chef may not stay around, but I never thought I had a chance with you. He took a sip of his coffee. Oh, come on, I said, smiling a bit shyly. It's true. I thought you were beyond me. I guess I got lucky, he said with a wink. Bill, you're making me blush. Okay, how about an omelet this morning? He asked, holding up a pan. That sounds fantastic. Later that afternoon, I jumped when my phone buzzed against my leg. What? How did you get this? I asked, picking it up from the edge of the couch. From your bag. I hadn't even seen him get up, but my bag was in the kitchen. I quickly went from confused to anxious when I thought of last night's messages. Did I delete them? Nothing is happening, I told myself, my heart racing. Nothing is happening. I'll just say, you should call Lenore. I blinked, feeling relief wash over me as I relaxed into the couch. I covered my face with a pillow and asked, why does everyone keep saying that? You can't ignore your mom on her birthday. I'm not ignoring her, I said quickly. And why don't you call her if it's so important? Liv, call her, he urged again. I hesitated but finally pulled up her number. I'm not sure what to say. Just wish her a happy birthday. Tell her you love her. Say you miss her. I made a face at that. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? She said cheerfully. Hi, Mom. There was a pause on the line. Mom? Olivia? Yes, unless you have some secret daughter I don't know about. Are you there? Yes. How are you, Olivia? I'm fine, Mom. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I didn't expect to hear from you. It's been months. I know, I'm sorry about that. How are you? I'm good. I keep trying to reach your father. I need some help, but he won't answer my calls. Mom, he doesn't have to pay you anymore, you know that, I said, rolling my eyes a bit at Bill. I know, but I just don't get why he can't help me out. You know why, Mom? Don't act like the victim. Besides, he just finished his divorce, so he's busy. That's what she gets for breaking up a family, she said for what felt like the millionth time. She didn't break up the family, I thought. You did. How's the book coming along? I asked, trying to change the topic. It's okay. Can you tell me about it? It's not finished yet. I see. Are you keeping busy? What do you mean by that? Nothing. I just want to make sure you're not lacking in things to do. Olivia, please stop suggesting things. I sighed. I'm not, Mom. You sound fine. How's Bill? She asked, sounding a bit brighter. He's working a lot, but he's good, I said, glancing at him again. He was focused on his phone. He says hi. Good. He works hard for you. You're lucky to have him. I pursed my lips at the compliment that felt backhanded. Yes, I guess I am. I should get going. It's been a long weekend. Thanks for calling and send my love to Bill. All right. Happy birthday. I ended the call and sighed. When I looked up, Bill was watching me. That was sad, he said. You know how she is. I know how you both are. What do you mean? It means that you're like her. She's distant, even if she doesn't mean to be. I'm not like her. She's never been good at sharing her feelings. It's always extremes. Either no emotion or total anger. I just don't know how to make her happy. It sounds like she hasn't been happy since you both left. Maybe she wants you to come back. I shook my head. When my dad and I left, it just gave her a reason to be unhappy and a way to blame us. Well, that makes sense, don't you think? I was silent. Did it? She left us no choice, but Bill wouldn't see that. So, you think I'm distant? Sometimes, yeah, he said, stroking his chin. Oh. It wasn't entirely unfair, but it hurt to hear. I didn't mean to be distant. You blame her for the divorce, and she knows it. You're being a bit harsh. Sorry, I just hate seeing you two clash. I want you to feel happy. I am, and we don't clash, but maybe that's part of the problem, I admitted. He paused for a moment. Could you tell if she was drinking? On the phone? No, but I don't think so. You know we can offer her some help. Dad thinks we shouldn't. He said it would be enabling. Liv, she's in her 50s. She's not going to change. She might change, but only if she admits there's a problem. Well, maybe there isn't. As far as we know, she just drinks occasionally. I don't think that makes her an alcoholic. I'm not sure, Bill. Maybe you're being too hard on her. Just because she's not a perfect mother doesn't mean she's terrible. Don't make a big deal out of nothing. I nodded, trying to avoid another argument, but I felt frustrated. I always did when we talked about my mother. He always defended her, and I wanted to shout that at him, but it didn't seem worth it. There were things he didn't get about our relationship, things no one else could understand, except maybe John and Gretchen, who had supported me through the divorce and everything that followed. So why couldn't he see it from my side? I glanced at him as he flipped through his book, looking for his place. How could I make him realize I wasn't always in the wrong? If I tried to explain it to him and he didn't understand, would that mean he was right? That I was the problem? I opened my mouth to explain why my relationship with my mom was difficult, to share how tough it was to go through my parents' divorce, feeling like she cared more about my dad than me. Don't make a big deal out of nothing. Maybe I was too dramatic. I decided to let it go to avoid an argument. I'm going to take a nap, I said, standing up. Whoa. I steadied myself on the armrest and groaned as Bill chuckled. All right, go get some rest, champ. I woke up later, confused by the setting sun and the warmth of a heavy blanket covering me. Bill, I called from the bed. Silence. I closed my eyes again, ready to fall asleep again, when he answered from the doorway. I opened my eyes and stretched my arms out from under the blanket, feeling more comfortable. He climbed in next to me, and our closeness felt special. Do you still think I'm cold? I whispered, looking up at him. No, he replied, rubbing his cheek against mine. I pulled him a little closer and felt his warmth. The moment was gentle, and when he moved slightly away, I wanted to stay close. Instead, I suggested taking care to be cautious, promising it would be our last time. We shared a cozy moment under that warm blanket, feeling connected. After a while, we lay there catching our breath when I heard my phone ringing softly from the couch. Birth control. I swung my feet over the edge of the bed and started to get up, but Bill caught my arm. I turned to see him asking me to stay. We held each other's gaze in the dim light, broken only by the recurring sounds of the daily alarm. I thought for a moment, then slowly slipped my arm from his hand and left to take the pill. I read the email one more time, thinking about how to reply. From David Dillon. Sent, Mon, May 7th, 2012, 8:23, AM CST to Olivia Germain. Subject, Chicago, M meet and greet invitation. Olivia, thank you for the invitation. I'll be there. I'm heading to my latest project soon. Come along and we can chat about my work. David Dillon, Senior Architect, Pearson Greer. I glanced at my watch and felt a bit anxious. I had some tasks to do, but the upcoming interviews were my main focus. From Olivia Germain. Sent Mon, May 7th, 2012, 8:31 AM CST to David Dillon. Subject, Chicago, M meet and greet invitation. Just let me know the time and place. Olivia Germain, Associate Editor, Chicago Metropolitan Magazine. Even through email, he had a strong presence. Or maybe it was just me reacting to his words. I reminded myself to keep my distance. I felt like I was losing control, which was unsettling. Between his messages and my work with Lucy, everything felt overwhelming. Was it just in my head? His reply came quickly, from David Dillon. Sent, Mon, May 7th, 2012, 8:33 AM CST to Olivia Germain. Subject, Chicago, M meet and greet invitation. That sounds great. I'll see you at 11:30. Lunch is on me. David Dillon's senior architect, Pearson, Greer. When Jenny told me David had arrived, I was surprised to see it was already 11:30. I had been so focused on my research that I lost track of time. In a hurry, I quickly tidied up and was grateful for my simple outfit of a white shirt and navy skirt. After one last touch of lip gloss, I went down to meet him. In the lobby, Serena and Beeman were chatting with David. "Olivia, you didn't mention you had an appointment with Mr. Dillon today," Beeman said playfully. He gave me a knowing look when David wasn't watching. "David, we're excited to have you featured this year." David looked a bit shy and rubbed his neck. "I hope it goes well." "Oh, I'm sure it will," Beeman replied brightly. "You'll probably get a lot of attention. I've followed your work for years, ever since that article in the Tribune. I'd love to come see your project." David smiled but replied politely, "Mrs. Germain and I will be discussing the interview. My schedule is tight, so this is the only time I have." Beeman laughed. "Of course. Olivia is here to help," he added with a chuckle. "Ready?" David asked, standing with his hands on his hips. "After you, Mr. Dillon," I said, motioning for him to go first. "No," he said with a laugh, opening the door and signaling for me to go ahead. "You first." Once we were alone in the hallway, I felt myself relax a little. There was something about him that made me feel both uneasy and comforted at the same time. "That guy thinks he can say you're available again. I'll make sure he stops," David said. I stared at him, unsure if he was joking, but his serious face surprised me. "How are you?" he asked pleasantly. I was trying to understand his sudden change in attitude. I noticed him looking at the spot where my bruises used to be. "I'm fine," I said casually and crossed my arms. He tapped his foot and looked down at me while we waited for the elevator. "So, how are you?" I asked. "Better," he said with a friendly smile, which helped me relax a bit. He led me to a shiny black Porsche 911 that looked like it was taken care of very well, especially in this city. He opened the passenger door, and I could hardly believe it. "This is your car?" "Yes. Get in," he urged, and I lowered myself onto the leather seat. As he walked around the car, I quickly noticed the turbo logo inside, just like I thought. "I love this car," I said once he settled in behind the wheel. "Are you into cars?" he asked. "Not really, but my dad always had different sports cars when I was growing up. I just like them to go fast," I replied. "That makes sense. Are you hungry?" he asked. "Starved," I admitted. He looked at me with interest. "Oh, I eat. You probably didn't expect that," I added quietly. He laughed. "You must put in a lot of effort to look so good," he said, pulling out into traffic. Sure," I said softly, feeling my face get warm. "I don't really exercise except for the occasional run." "Did you enjoy your Saturday night?" "It was okay," he replied. "I went to support Arnaud, but I kept thinking about you. I'd have preferred to be at your table." "No surprise there, considering we were a group of 5 women." "I meant that I'd have liked to be with you," I scoffed. "With me? You seemed busy with what was her name, Maria. She must have been the prettiest woman there," I said, pretending to look elsewhere. He made a sound, and my words hung in the air between us. "Do I detect a bit of jealousy, Olivia?" he asked when I didn't answer. "I am dating, you know. You can just call me Liv. Everyone else does. Don't change the topic." I was taken aback, feeling a shiver run down my spine. That trick always worked on Bill. He was easy to distract. "Okay," I said finally. "So you're dating. Is that something you want to talk about?" he asked. My heart raced as I studied his profile, taking in his features while he focused on the road. The best way to describe his nose was strong, with a slight bump and a sharp tip. Even though he was freshly shaven, I could see the beginning of stubble. His long lashes blinked, and his thick eyebrows furrowed as he concentrated on driving. Tight muscles stretched against his shirt as he changed gears, and my hand wanted to reach out. I really wanted to talk about something important. How could I share all the thoughts racing through my mind, all the feelings that troubled me? I couldn't. Not the way I was starting to doubt my marriage, wondering if it would be enough. He looked at me with curiosity. "No," I said softly. We drove in quiet until we arrived. "Good afternoon, Mr. Dillon," said the hostess. She had a nice ponytail and a friendly smile, but he didn't seem to notice. "This place is near the project site, so we come here often," he explained. "What's the project?" I asked. It's a resort hotel by the Chicago River. Dylan! A loud voice called from across the restaurant just as we sat down. I recognized the man from when David introduced him on Saturday night. Arnaud Mallory, this is Olivia Germain, a writer for Chicago M. Yes, he said, looking at me the same way as before. I remember. Nice to meet you, I replied a bit too loudly, pushing my hair behind my ear. Enchanté, madame, he said, extending his hand and bowing slightly. Actually, it's madame, I corrected him, accepting his gesture. He straightened up and looked between us. My apologies, madame, then. Are you heading back to the office? David asked. Yes. I need you to check the light fixtures we talked about. Today. We can finalize it when I get back later, he said, redirecting his attention to me and sending Arnaud away. I felt a wave of relief. Germain, David said once we were alone. That's not your husband's last name, is it? How did you know? I asked. I did some digging, he said with a playful look. No, it's not. And just so you know, I haven't changed it yet. You can call me whatever you like. It doesn't matter. I'll be changing it soon. I understand, he said, smiling as he looked at his menu. What's good here? I asked. Do you eat meat? Of course. I know just the thing, he said, taking my menu and placing it down. I almost objected, but the excitement in his eyes made me pause. After he ordered, I took a long drink of water that felt refreshing. I hoped it could calm the whirlwind of thoughts he had stirred up. So, David, I began, tell me about yourself. What do you do when you're not working? I asked. I mostly stay busy with work, he answered simply. I can see that. But you must relax sometimes. I felt a bit shy about asking. I enjoy sailing and swimming now and then, he said, letting me off easy. Oh? I said, distracted for a moment as thoughts of sports and competition came to mind. I remembered how the swimmers in college always amazed everyone with their commitment. He leaned forward on his elbows. How about you? He paused and looked at me playfully. Live? His tone was light, and his eyes were locked on mine. I felt a little shy and touched my ear, but then he reached out and briefly held my wrist. I stopped moving. He let go slowly and leaned back in his chair, watching me closely. Well, I'm busy with work, I said, trying to sound relaxed. I spend a lot of my free time with... My voice faded as I thought of Bill. Gretchen and Lucy, just regular girl stuff. I shrugged. I read a lot and help out at the local shelter, when I need to feel grounded. When he didn't say anything, I spoke again, feeling uncertain about his look. Do you like dogs? Yep, he nodded. My family dog is not well and it's been really hard, he told me. I felt sorry for him, but kept quiet. Do you think you might get your own someday? No, he said, looking out the window. I don't have the time. Maybe one day, though. He turned back to me and added, His name is Canyon. I smiled and raised my glass of water. To a speedy recovery, I said as I tapped his glass lightly. He responded with a warm smile. The waiter brought 2 hearty burgers with fresh side salads. I quickly finished my salad and looked up to see him smiling at me. Hungry? He asked, repeating his earlier question. Well, yes. I paused, feeling a little shy. What's wrong? He pressed. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of salad, but my dad always made me eat it. You know your dad isn't here, right? Yes, but I feel like I need to eat it anyway before I can have anything else. It sounds silly when I say it out loud, I said with a shrug. Interesting, he said, nodding. Delayed enjoyment. I asked, taking a bite. Nothing, just trying to learn everything I can about the mysterious Olivia Germain. I felt my face warm up and, trying to regain my composure, awkwardly poked at my salad. Well, let's focus on you. How long have you known Arnaud? I asked. Since I joined Pearson Greer, maybe 8 years. I reached for my notepad and he gently touched my wrist. I pulled back, surprised by the unexpected touch. Let's just chat for now. We can do that later. All right, I said, trying to calm my heartbeat. So Arnaud is also an architect? He's the other senior architect. He's quite talented. Oh. So he's going to stick around, I thought. Is he married or single? Why? David looked at me with curiosity. Are you thinking about including him in the article too? I nearly sputtered in response. No, not at all, I said quickly, shaking my head. I just wanted to understand more about your world or something like that. He laughed softly. He's single, forever it seems. Must be a part of the job, I said quietly. It is, he agreed, his expression serious. We work a lot. Building a relationship can be challenging. I nodded, understanding what he meant. Are you hoping for something serious? Is that why you agreed to participate in this? Yes and no. I've wanted to settle down for a while, but work makes it difficult. Women say they can cope with my busy life, but they often want more. That isn't really the main reason I decided to go along with this, though. I took a big bite and chewed, trying to think about his words without getting annoyed. Bill works a lot, too. The firm sends him out of town often. He's a lawyer, I added, recalling he probably already knew. Since he doesn't have kids, he gets picked for many assignments. His silence made me look up from my plate. He seemed deep in thought, focusing on his food. If I were interviewing you, the next question would probably be about your college, I said. I went to Yale for my undergraduate degree and then to the Architectural Association in London. Suddenly, I felt less confident about myself. And you? He asked. Oh, I went to Notre Dame. He smiled at me. My father went there. It's a great school, right? Yeah, it is. Mine, too. What are the chances? I wonder if they know each other. A smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. What does your father do? I asked. He's retired now, but he was a CEO. Of what? I asked, even though I had a guess. GQS. Why did I ask? What could I say? That's impressive. He met my eyes, and we both laughed lightly. It was, he agreed. They just moved back to Illinois a few years ago. How did you like London? I blurted out to steer away from the topic of my parents. It's beautiful, a wonderful place to study architecture. Have you been? I went with my parents when I was young. What do your parents do? My dad is a consultant in Dallas, and my mom is a writer. Is your mom a writer in Dallas? I shook my head, trying not to meet his gaze. Divorced? He asked. I nodded. When? Right before high school. That must have been tough. I cleared my throat and shrugged a little, wiping my mouth with a napkin. How did you end up here? He asked. I chose Notre Dame because of my dad and because it was the best school I got into. Gretch was going to the University of Chicago, so I thought it would be nice not to be too far apart. After graduation, Lucy and I moved here to be with Gretchen. Did you always want to be here? Actually, no, I thought I would end up in New York City. Really? He raised his eyebrows in surprise. You're pretty close. Why not move? It's complicated, I replied, shaking my head. How so? Just boring details. What else you got? He didn't hesitate. If you could go anywhere in the world, where? Spain, I thought, already knowing where this was going. I shrugged. I don't know. What about you? Yes, you do, he replied, narrowing his eyes lightly at me. Can't a girl have any secrets? Why does he ask so many questions? I continued to chew slowly, curious about how he observed me. I don't have time to think about that. Besides, Bill doesn't like taking vacations. That's a shame. I wouldn't enjoy imagining surfing perfect waves or eating oysters if I knew it wasn't going to happen. I paused, picturing him with a surfboard, enjoying an oyster. I tightened my jaw. Anyway, wherever your imagination is taking you, you'll get there. You seem like someone who knows what they want. I'm not a child, I replied, surprised by his comment. Lately, I felt stuck between what I hoped for and what was real, but I couldn't share that with him. How old are you anyway? Well, Mr. Dillon, I think that's a bit rude to ask. I understand. Is being polite something you value in a gentleman? Isn't that a key trait of a gentleman? Good point. Is being polite something you expect from a man? I almost swallowed hard. Hey now, let me ask the personal questions. I'm 27, by the way. Well, you're still young. Then how old are you? 34. I thought he might be around that age. I'm practically ancient, he joked. Not at all. I waved my hand and took a sip of water. I wanted to know more. Bill was 30, but David felt older and wiser. My only previous experience with an older guy was in college, which felt very different from this. That was a delicious burger. I'm so full, I said, making a face. Really? I could eat another. I laughed when I realized he was serious. "I've got this," he said, pulling out his wallet. "Oh, no," I insisted. "I could probably get it reimbursed," I said cheerfully. "Beeman would be happy to—" "I'll take care of it." His tone was firm. "No, really." "Olivia," he said with a commanding presence that caught my attention. I felt smaller in my seat. "Is this because I paid for our drinks at Jerome's?" "You didn't. Sherry didn't charge us. She mentioned I looked upset and that I could use a break." I stared at him. "Did you?" "What do you mean?" he asked, acting innocent. I blinked rapidly, unsure whether to laugh or be surprised. "You think I went home with her just because she didn't charge me?" His laughter echoed in the restaurant. "Relax," he said. "I'm not as bad as you think. She did get a good tip thanks to you. Don't do that again." I nodded, feeling that I had no choice. I watched him handle the bill, surprised at how easy it felt to be with him. Despite his teasing, I felt relaxed, like we were old friends. It left me feeling a bit confused. "Come on," he said. "Let's take the Riverwalk. You can see the hotel from there. It's part of the charm." I followed as he led the way, and soon we were strolling along the water. There was so much I wanted to ask him, to learn about him, but we walked in comfortable silence, which felt nice. The sun was high. Fluffy, thick clouds dotted the sky. The Chicago River sparkled in the sunlight, looking like it was covered in gold. There was a slight chill in the air that felt refreshing. Everything seemed just right. "That's it," he said. I leaned back to take in the tall building. I had noticed it before. It was hard to miss. It started with a dark gray base and smoothly changed to shiny gray glass. The building curved unexpectedly on one side, then dipped in and out again, a little like the letter B. "What do you think?" "It's different, David." "Is that a good thing?" I turned to face him, shielding my eyes from the sun to look at his face. I wanted to see if he was joking, but he seemed serious. "Do you really want me to say it?" "Yes." I looked away again, squinting at the bright light. "It's surprising. I love how all the glass reflects the blue sky and the water, but there's this silver shine to it, right? Against the stone, what is that color, graphite? It looks almost fluid." When I realized I was talking too much, I felt a bit embarrassed. "This isn't really my field," I added, feeling shy. "No, you're correct," he said, shaking his head quickly. "I'm sorry. I just like watching you think." He put his hands in his pockets and walked toward the entrance while I stood there. "Coming?" I quickly followed him, taking long steps to keep up. Tall palm trees lined our path, waving gently. "Palm trees?" I raised my eyebrows in surprise. "This will all be grass," he said, pointing to the open spaces near the entrance. "And," he added excitedly, "this will all be open. The lobby will be all glass with sliding doors that will stay open in summer." I walked over to touch the stone. It felt rough despite looking smooth. I remembered the cool marble at St. Patrick's Cathedral. The hotel had clean gray edges and long rectangular windows. I imagined waves crashing on black sand beaches. David slid the door open for me. "Welcome to the Revelin Resort." "Dave!" someone shouted from across the large room. A strong-looking man came over, quickly starting a conversation with David. I wandered around the space, picturing how it would look once finished. There was not much to see because of the construction, but I admired the light-filled feel David had created with the large windows. I looked back at David. Now, 3 different people were talking to him, all wanting his help. His presence in my office was strong, and it felt just as powerful here, even with all the empty space around us. He suddenly stopped talking and looked around the room, as if he was searching for something until he noticed I was watching him. In that moment, there was a connection between us. So much was left unsaid, but I felt a tie to him that was impossible to explain. He walked over to me, leaving behind a few curious looks, and I crossed my arms, trying not to reach out. "Are you okay?" he asked as he got closer. I didn't trust my voice, so I nodded at him bravely, trying to show my feelings with just my eyes. He gently placed a hand on my shoulder, and I felt his warmth through my shirt, creating a strong bond. His broad shoulders seemed to defend our quiet moment from anyone observing. I knew this was as close as we could be without causing issues. I watched his face, noticing the concern in his expression. "I don't want to push you," he said, moving his arm away. "You need to decide for yourself." "Decide?" I repeated, surprised. It had never crossed my mind that I should make any choices. "David, I made my choices a long time ago." My voice stumbled and I tried to breathe deeply, but my chest tightened. "I need you to be strong for me," I said. "If we want to be friends, I need to feel that." "I understand," he said, his voice heavy as he shoved his hands back into his pockets. "That text the other night, if Bill had read it, and now you're working with Lucy? Is that an issue?" "No, but I haven't told her about the article yet." "Why not?" "I'm not sure," I hesitated. "It just feels wrong." "Why? It's just work." "David, please, I really want us to be friends." He frowned at that. "Just be careful, and please don't mention anything to Lucy for now." "Okay, I can step back." He crossed his arms and looked at the wall behind me. "Thank you," I said, feeling a bit ignored. Inside, I felt empty and alone. I was starting to feel crushed under David's influence, as if I were one of his projects. Was he intentionally breaking me down? "Wait here," he said. "There's one more thing I want to show you." He came back shortly with a bright helmet on his head and another in his hand. "Better put this on," he said, handing it to me. I wrinkled my nose at it and frowned up at him. My hair didn't need a new reason to be wild. His serious look made me take it, so I reluctantly placed it on my head. I followed him through the building structure and over to the lift, where he signaled me to step inside. Hesitantly, I walked into the cage, testing how strong it was. He stepped in behind me, and it started to move, carrying us slowly upward. As I noticed we were getting closer to the roof, I stood on my tiptoes. "This area will be for the guests in the penthouse suite," he said as we stepped into the bright sunlight. "This space next to the deck will have a private infinity pool. The pool has a glass bottom so you can see it from the suite." "How interesting," I said. "Wow. Does it hang out over the edge?" "Yes." He guided me toward the edge and signaled for me to stop. "It's designed so you can swim out of the building and over the city." "Be careful," he warned. "There's no barrier, so stay back. I just wanted to show you the view." I nodded, feeling a bit childlike in my compliance. I turned to take in the amazing view of Chicago, as the hotel was one of the tallest in the city. The day was beautiful. The sun shone brightly, and it was warm when I stood in it. I stepped closer, and David tensed next to me. Being so high up and alone with him was exciting. After our recent moment together, I felt a connection. I leaned over a bit and took a step forward. I wanted to feel that thrill again. I moved forward softly, leaning in a little more until he gently took my arm and pulled me back. The excitement remained, even though I tried to act sensible. Part of me wished I could adjust my feelings like a dial. Almost. "It's so—" I began, gazing at the water, searching for the right words. "Humbling," he finished. There wasn't anyone else in our world at that moment. A breeze picked up, blowing my hair around, so I had to take off my helmet and smooth it down. I tucked it under my arm and looked up at him. Another gust caught my hair, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. There was something in the air that made my heart race. Finally, he looked down at me, meeting my gaze. Briefly, I saw him wet his lips, and I bit mine in response. I wanted to learn more about him, and I knew it showed on my face. I steadied myself against the wind as it got stronger. His expression was hard to read while he looked into my eyes, but my breathing became quicker with expectation. I leaned in a little, preparing for whatever might happen next. The wind intensified, and David suddenly turned away, squinting at the skyline. My helmet slipped from my grasp and bounced on the ground. He quickly bent down, grabbed it, and handed it back to me. "Put that on," he said, not looking directly at me. "Let's go." The office was quiet when I returned to work. I slipped into my office, hoping to avoid Beeman's questioning. The mood in the car had shifted already. David seemed distant, and while it bothered me, I understood it was for the best. It was what I had requested from him. After working steadily for an hour, I took a break and went to the kitchen. Serena and Lisa were laughing over their snacks. "Where have you been?" Lisa asked. "She was with David Dillon," Serena said. "Oh," Lisa replied, looking away. "Wait, have you seen this?" "Beeman brought it," Serena said, picking up a magazine. She flipped through the pages and held it out for me. I found myself looking at an article in Architectural Digest. I glanced at them with a neutral expression. Even after my hectic time with David, staying calm around others came easily to me. Wow, he's so impressive, she said. He's even better in person. Sure, I agreed. Good thing you're married, Liv, Lisa noted, her expression changing a bit. How did you get him to agree? He's a friend of a friend, I said, even if it wasn't completely true. I had wondered about that myself. Well, aren't you lucky? Lucky Liv, she said, with a tone that made it clear she didn't really mean it. If it weren't for Brock. Serena began. Please, Lisa interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. If he even noticed you, you'd be interested. I would not. Brock and I are like soulmates, I guess, and... Lisa and I waited for her to finish, but she didn't say anything more. I rolled my eyes at them. Can I keep this? It'll be good for his file. You'll have to ask Beeman about that, Serena joked. He'll totally want that for his own records. We laughed, but then stopped when he entered the kitchen. Ah, Olivia, there you are, Beeman said. Here I am, I replied, tucking the magazine under my arm. What a lovely place, Davina said, touching the just-listed card for the house we'd visited. I had stopped by her place after work to discuss the details, trusting her opinion on the features more than Janine's. You think? Bill really likes it. I'm just not sure, I said. Why's that? She asked. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like the right fit. Across the street, there's a house that I oddly liked better. It had character, but Bill prefers this place. Well, she sighed, sometimes you have to compromise a little. I'm already compromising, I muttered, sinking deeper into the couch. Are you? How? I paused for a moment. I really love the city, and I'm not sure I want to leave. Why are you, then? Bill isn't as fond of it. He wants something quieter, plus, he wants children someday. Kids aren't exactly quiet, she pointed out. Are you saying you don't? Want children, I mean? I'm not sure. I never really think about it, which I guess means something. Why didn't you and Mac have kids? We did, she replied. I had a child many years ago, but he didn't survive long. I gasped. I had no idea, Davina. You were very young, she replied, waving her hand dismissively. It was God's plan. I just didn't feel ready to try again, and Mac was always supportive. Before I knew it, I felt too old. But I don't regret it. Not everyone wants kids. Though I think Mac would have made a great father, she smiled. She stood up and left the room, returning quickly. Not everywhere feels like home right away. It takes time. It's about who you're sharing that home with. If you love Bill, and you do, it doesn't really matter where you live. As she spoke, I noticed the large bandage on her side and the dark bruise showing at both ends. She seemed much weaker than when I had last seen her. She stopped brushing her hair when she noticed I was looking and sat next to me. Her breathing was heavy as she quietly said, "The doctor says things aren't looking good." Yet her eyes still sparkled. She had never been one to dwell on bad news. I'm feeling okay, though. How is Bill? Bill? I knew from past conversations that she wasn't seeking comfort, so changing the topic was best. He's good, just busy. We're planning a trip to Waukegan this weekend since he's been working late all week. That sounds like a great idea. Show Bill how much you appreciate all he does. She lowered her voice playfully. Before you go, stop by La Perla and ask for Alejandro. He's very charming, but don't take his advice on clothing, she winked. After you're done with him, ask for Joanne and tell her to put it on my tab. I laughed. Oh, Davina, you're always full of surprises. Do you ever slow down? Never. It drives Mac a little crazy. But Olivia, you only have one life. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. If you want something, say it out loud. If you love him, tell him. I was surprised at how serious she suddenly became. Her gaze held mine for a moment before she looked away. Can I keep this? I know Mac would want to share his thoughts. Of course, that's fine. Have him call us when he gets a chance, but I should head home. Dinner won't cook itself. See you soon, she said as she walked me to the door. On the way to the train, Bill called from his office, excitement in his voice. The cabin is booked. I'm looking forward to our weekend. I might even get some time to relax. Well, don't get too comfortable, I replied, and remember to call Andrew. Bill and Andrew had been eagerly waiting for their time at the cabin for a while, looking forward to a warm weekend. Fishing wasn't really my thing, but spending time with friends usually was enjoyable, along with Lucy's company. I've got it covered, he said.